Okay.
Welcome, Stephen.
Yes. Welcome. All right.
Doesn't matter if it's early or later. He's always looks tired. The poor man.
That's what happens
Send
when
him
you
some
get up
love.
at. Yeah, that's what happens when you get up at 4 a.m.
That's why I wanted to give you this lovely gift of
I
starting
know
early.
it is. It's a nice gift. I appreciate it.
It's
But-
refreshing, isn't it?
So, welcome back to Tuesday News Day. Of course, Tuesday News Day, we just cover all the stuff that happened on the weekend in the past couple days, just because
That's
there's
right.
usually so much to cover and
There's
can't
awful
miss
lot of crap.
anything. So, Thursdays is when we
Mhm.
focus on the hard-hitting, poignant topics of the week.
Particularly
But
the things
Tuesday
that
is when
really
all the
focus on-
amalgamation of stories comes in. So if you're
Mhm.
watching live, you can watch on Twitch and Twitter. And of course, if you
Mhm.
have any commentary, questions, or just want to rant and rave at us like crazed lunatics like we had on Thursday, then you are fully welcome to do so, and we will respond to you as we see fit. We may not
Mhm.
respond to you because you may be bonkers.
You may be one of those Twitter twits.
Exactly. There
We
are
don't know what
fewer
to do.
Twitter twits than there have been in the past. So
Uh-huh.
thank you, Elon. But
But it's gonna be good, man.
before we jump into the stories of this weekend and the past few days,
gonna
quick
do a
update
personal
on your how was your games night or your games day, Danny?
Dude, it was awesome. I had so many people, like the whole. I pretty much never had a moment from noon until like pretty much midnight that there wasn't somebody there playing. I literally had a continuous stream of people.
Oh my
It was awesome.
gosh!
Yeah, but
Captain Holt died.
what's up, boys? Who?
Captain Holt died.
Like the actor who played
Yeah.
Captain Holt?
He died.
What?
He just
Breaking
died
news,
today.
boy? What?
I
You just
was
saw
like-
it on?
Well, because I was looking
Just
at
saw it
like
on
it
X?
was trending on Twitter. It was trending on Twitter /X, and it was like
Uh-huh.
Captain Holt, and it's like you'll always be my captain.
Oh, Captain, my
I'm
Captain.
like, dang, he's dead.
All
So,
right, from now
hello,
on, it's
the wrong
Captain, my Captain.
show. How are you
Wrong
doing
show.
tonight?
It is on, bro. It's on.
So, you are not the wrong show. So,
No,
but
you're on
you
the
might be
correct
hosting the wrong one yourself.
But it's oh, he gets a good night kiss. That's
Yep.
beautiful.
Yeah, that's how it works.
That's right. It works at the Steven household.
Are you guys the
But,
right show? Yes, we
well,
should be.
we'll be the judge of that. We'll
We'll be
see.
the judge.
But, we're if this is your first time, we are a political commentary show from Canada, and we do both political content from a conservative Christian perspective. So yeah,
Mhm.
we can do it Timcast IRL style.
Our
try
buddy
to do it well.
IPA.
So are we, LO, not Canada.
I'm trying to think
okay,
of IPA.
IPA? Is that a beer? Like like a beer IPA?
I'm
Or is
trying to
that
think of.
Pennsylvania?
I'm trying to think of IPA. I'm trying to. I don't.
Okay, I'm curious now. Like you're gonna have to
Yeah.
figure it out.
IPA. Well, I don't know the at.
It might be his Twitter handle. Might be his Twitter handle.
Well, maybe. I'll see if
Mhm.
Okay, I'll search it up.
Yeah, but sounds like he is from buddy IPA. Okay, so that's this buddy. Recommended him. But Steven, guess what yesterday was for me? Yesterday was the end of my 40 days off social media.
Mhm.
That was crazy. Like 40 days without social media is a very, very long time.
It is quite a while.
You realize very quickly how much social media dominates your life. And then when I came back, I was like, oh, I ended up staying up way too late, like, on social media. So I realized, yep, that definitely was worth the exit. But speaking of social media, Steven, do you want to just launch into it? We got a lot of stuff to cover today.
Let's jump in. But right before we jump into all of that, just a point
Get
of
it.
reference, because as you knew this was coming.
Girl.
The Leafs have won.
Of course they have.
They beat the Rangers. So
He hasn't thrown that in
the
there.
Rangers are the second best team in the league, and the Leafs have been really hot of late. So I'm actually very proud of them.
Ah, that's cool. Here's IPA lot. Let's do this, bro.
Okay, all right.
Nice. Right on, bro. Welcome,
Yeah.
welcome. Always good to see you guys. Real question is, where are they from? Are you guys from, like, you're not from Canada? Are they from the United States? Because we actually cover almost entirely like United States stuff. We know more about the United States. There we go. Well, we got a couple Tennessee stories tonight that we're gonna have to cover. So you're gonna like to see what we have to say about those crazy Tennesseers. Is there like a name? Like we're knuckleheads. I'm not sure if there's a name term for Tennessee, locals. But
Tennesseans?
Tennesseans?
Yes.
Tennesseans works. I think that works.
Inbreds.
That's a good way to go.
Oh, are you trying to say inbreds? Inbreds.
I thought
that's
that was
Alabama, yeah,
or Louisiana, or
it's also a very common accusation in terms of Alberta, but doesn't make much sense here.
By the way, if you're from Tennessee, just so you know, Alberta is the province of Alberta. It's basically the Texas of Canada. It is the most conservative, province in the entire country, and we are basically always at the crazy, far, basically the city folk in Canada are always the crazy libs are always on the east coast. In America, that would be the equivalent of like Middle America versus like the coast. That's basically the breakdown of Canada's political.
Well, it's sort of the same. It's just that we shift a little.
Because
Ontario is still flyover country, but the majority of Ontario is fairly conservative. So the Stampede was fun when I saw it 25 years ago. The Stampede, I just remember the last time I went to the Stampede was after because there was a great flood here 10 years ago. And the motto of that flood was "Come hell or high water," and that was, I think, I think last year was actually the busiest Stampede. Now that they reopened it after the lockdowns.
Well, because people were like, "Okay, finally we can go back and live life normally." It was like, "Oh, thank God."
Yes, the tyranny is over. But let's watch some interesting things to kind of open up the show. So Danny sent me these crazy videos, and I have not seen them before. So this is live react.
Okay, so by the way, we're going to talk through this one because there's no sound. I actually tested it out.
Okay,
there's no sound on
no problem.
But this is from Tennessee, a dash cam,
a tornado
of a driver caught in a Tennessee tornado.
Yeah,
which is nuts.
Maybe you guys saw this tornado.
Maybe they're locals, so maybe they actually saw it.
Wanted to watch this tornado. You wanted to watch? Okay, you can react too. All right.
This is nuts. Check this out. This guy's driving past a whole bunch of.
That's whoa! I
don't even know how he got caught in there. I don't even know how he got.
So why would you keep going?
Because he's like, I'm gonna get out of this. Maybe he saw Twister. That was my guess. He saw Twister. He saw the cow flying overhead.
Thoroughly damaged your car.
Oh yeah, his car's done.
Oh, done.
Yeah, his car is completely demolished. You see, the lightning.
This makes sense because
this is I think what they did when they put this together. I think this is the beginning before he heads into it. This is what they're
supposed to, and this is the formation of the cloud.
This is the formation. So this I think this is him, the build up. So they showed us the worst. So if you go forward.
Oh, what? Oh, can I not skip? Oh,
you should be able to.
Trying to skip. Yeah. Okay, things are getting darker.
Yeah,
darker.
More darkness, and you can see it overhead.
It's starting to convalesce.
Yep,
you can see he's in the city. To swirl.
I could see if he was out in the country, I'd be like, okay, maybe he's gonna keep going because it's safer. But he's in the city. He's got lots of places.
Hokey Dino.
Well, there you go. There's lightning strike.
You see that, Curtis? That's crazy.
Yep. And then even more craziness
starts. Just everything starts to. Another one gets zapped.
Another zap. Yep.
And then everything just goes to crap. And then he turns around. At that point in time, I think what I would do is I would just
I don't know if he turned around or if he got turned around. What do you think?
Well, no, because that's the start. The start of the video. The start of the video is him right behind that ambulance. So he turned around and just started to book it the other way. And I'm like, okay, dude.
Yep. I mean, the only thing that would have made that even more epic is like Zaz said.
I think I saw Dorothy and Toto.
If you saw a bunch of like munchkins running around, be like, "Where are we? Where's the yellow brick road?" Be like, "Oh,
hey, Conquer Worm." I was meaning to ask, how was the shift? Because I've been seeing a lot of ads for it. Because it's from Angel Studios.
I definitely want to see it. Yeah,
They can be dangerous.
They can be dangerous. That's right, Curtis. This is my 7-year-old son. Apparently, he likes to join the show sometimes.
no, he just loves it. Okay, who's screaming?
You say
over
hi
there?
to Danny.
Hi.
Abby is very sad because she's in her room.
Oh,
Okay.
what poor little thing.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, you're done.
So yeah, like the tornado is a.
How'd you go?
I've seen a lot of tornado videos, like people who are tornado chasers, people who follow, follow storms. But I've never actually seen somebody driving through a tornado on that level. That was insane.
Yeah,
That's the thing
no, like
that's
that's like the stuff you see in movies, but you don't see in real life.
Yeah, that's what people said. This actually looked like a real movie, like a legitimate movie. That like I think because the dash cam made it happen. You know how like a lot of dash cam, particularly in Russia has a lot of dash cam footage. I think it's mandatory over there. You have to have dash cams in your cars. I think over there. So you see a lot of videos of dash cams catching crazy car accidents, whatever. I think this is the same thing, where you have a dash cam that just happens to catch this idiots trying to drive through a Category 4 tornado or something like that. It was crazy. Actually, I don't know how much this is. 150 kilometers miles per hour.
150 miles per hour to kilometers?
Yeah.
That would be
close to like 300.
250.
Yep. That's really fast. But I don't know how they categorize tornadoes. Like what categorizes
America. Yeah, we don't really get tornadoes too much.
Yeah.
Enough.
Not in Alberta.
Oh yeah, definitely not in Alberta. Well, we do sometimes. I think the worst we've gotten, there was one in Edmonton that
was like a Category 2.
Because we actually had a family friend who died. Like not them, but their parents died because they were in a campground, and the tornado ripped through the campground where they were sleeping, and they didn't heed the warnings, and then it flipped. They were trying to batten down the hatches in their trailer, and the trailer lifted up and flipped over, and both of them died.
I can see that, but yeah, we don't get anywhere near the same level.
Oh no, not to the same degree.
We don't have the same kind of heat. You need a lot of heat in order for those
rapid
to happen
shifts
here. So,
anyways, we are not experts on tornadoes.
Let's go to the second story about.
Neither are we experts on chickens. So this is what the chickens prefer: eating themselves.
Yep.
Mad chicken disease.
I mean, okay, you know what that first thing I thought of when I saw a chicken, of course, Tim Pool says chickens literally eat themselves. First thing I thought of when I saw that, like a chicken eating itself, is the scene from The Social Network. Have you seen that? You've seen that movie, right, Steven?
No, I have not seen The Social Network.
You have not? Okay,
no.
Well, play the scene. This is like
okay.
This is going to be a live react for you.
Yeah, well, live react to a movie I've not seen, and I.
No, but this scene is funny from the movie,
so that I don't forget to do that.
Go for it. Put it on screen.
Here we go.
There you go.
Of Facebook, Junior Eduardo I'm not the expert, but being connected to torturing animals is probably bad for business. I did not torture the chicken. I don't torture chickens. Are you crazy?
No, and settle down, please. I have here an article from the Crimson.
This is scathing.
56.
I was having dinner in the Kirkland dining hall with Mark, and I had the chicken with me because I had to have the chicken with me at all times. This was college. Somebody's gonna have to answer for this.
969.
And the dining hall was serving chicken for dinner, so I had to feed my chicken. So I took pieces of chicken and I gave it to the chicken.
Little chicken nuggets.
Because the next thing I knew, I was being accused of forced cannibalism.
Oh my
It's one of the
gosh.
funniest. Like, it's a whole thing in the movie, and I was like, "That's funny."
My goodness, that's
That's
funny.
the first thing I thought of. I'm like, "Yep, that." So now we've pretty much proven
Exactly. That was also what because people were saying that gays for Palestine, and we're going to talk about gays for Palestine later, and that it is essentially chickens for KFC. Now, I did know that chickens would eat themselves when
they're cannibals.
Well, I knew that they would, and they're not only cannibals. My high school principal he worked on a chicken farm, and he said that you cannot wear red
Around chickens?
You cannot wear red around chickens. They will literally try and peck you to death. If there is, so they think that you are a wounded chicken, and a wounded chicken, of course, is going to bleed and attract predators. And so they will literally gather around the wounded chicken and attack their wound until the other chicken dies. And so he showed up to work with a red shirt one day, and his boss is like, "Go, get out! The chickens are trying to kill you."
I mean, all the things we're learning about chickens today. This is good information right here.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever go into a chicken coop.
You thought you were in for the Shrewd Dudes podcast. You're in for Chicken Education 101.
That's right. And the big thing, we always thought that applied to like the bulls, but actually, like, apparently it's the chickens you got to watch out for.
Well, you got to watch out for both. My dad has been gored by a bull.
Oh.
Yeah, unintentional. Well, so we were trying to. So what you do with one last dog? Okay, you're really milking this, bud. Mildly internet famous. Get all the hugs. But trying to remember where I was going with this, and I lost my train of thought with the hug.
Your friend said something about chickens.
Friend said something about chickens. Well, that was my former principal, and I lost it.
Okay, well, let's just keep going.
Let's just go to the next one.
We got one more.
Yeah, one more little quirky video before we start.
It's just crazy.
The story of the day.
And by the way,
this is
a couple
nuts.
people who. If you play, what do you call it? Games on Steam.
Oh yeah,
I could not believe that Steam has this.
Oh yeah, they do.
This should be illegal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is. Right, I'm going to show you. Well, they'll highlight it in the video, so just watch. Okay, so I have to read this out for those who are listening. For those who are listening, not watching.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to read out the subtitles. So a video game called Fursan Al-Aqsa lets players control terrorists who kill Jews. Terrorists can be heard yelling Allahu Akbar as they murder IDF soldiers. Warning, images may be disturbing. Goodness. That's so messed up.
Like, this is like beyond sick.
So sick.
Yeah. Now
like that. There was a game a while back, and I forget exactly what it was, but essentially it was. I don't think it was ever actually released. I think it was like, they released a early like alpha test footage of it. And literally your purpose in the game was to kill Christian whites.
Yeah, I would be surprised.
Because it was like Smash the Patriarchy, the video game. And it was like, what?
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I think the problem with one of the similarities with people in Gaza, okay? People in Gaza, we've covered this a lot. And the people on the left, on the the fanatical left, is that they create fanatics. These are people who legitimately believe that, like, oh, whites are evil and demonic, and we should just be able to like kill them on demand or something like that. That's the same kind of rhetoric that you hear from like people on the in like the extremely like brainwashed Palestinians who like have games for children that include like Stab the Jew. Like, that's actually a playground game. Imagine like having a game called Stab the Jewy. It's like So yeah, like the fact that these games are out there is unbelievable. But yeah, this is the problem: is that like the left is playing this very dangerous game where, on the one hand, they basically have to protect and defend the intersectional hierarchy, which is that Muslims are victims, while at the same time they want to they're also embarrassed by the crazy things that the people in that intersectional grouping are doing. So it's like they're kind of caught in between like a rock and a hard place. So yeah, the fact that they're not doing anything about this is testimony that they're choosing Muslims over Jews in this one.
Yep.
And it's totally acceptable for them to advocate for like the murder of Jews. Like, hey, it's okay. Like,
well, and of course, it was the same for and like we didn't even mention this, but SNL did the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to show it on the stream because that would get the stream knocked off of Twitch, and of course we wouldn't be able to post it on YouTube. But there was an SNL sketch in which they mocked the congressional hearing that Elise Stefanik did, where she went after the presidents of the major universities in the United States, and they made her 5 times more shrill than she was. And they tried to make the university presence sound like educated and reasonable.
Yep.
In their defense of like calls for genocide.
Yeah, it shows that they're A, not funny, and B, horribly out of touch with whether or not they're just not funny.
Yeah,
like at all. Like that show has gone from being one of the
go-to. If they had said, it'd be like, oh yes, we're going to defend this, but we're also, if you misgender somebody, then we're going to take you off and we're going to kick you off campus. Like, that would be like an actual humorous bit to be like,
yeah.
So we have, no ethical standards.
Yeah, basically. No, they have one standard, which is we hate everyone.
We hate everybody on the right, or anybody on the white.
Well, speaking of somebody who hates pretty much everyone that is not himself, let's talk about the grand pope of the leftist cult, Sir Anthony Fauci.
Mm-hmm. Fauci.
There's the Auburn Chapel where Chris and I were.
That's where you were married, right?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Do you still go there?
No.
You don't practice anymore, do you?
I don't. No.
Why?
No, never.
A number of complicated reasons.
Go on. We have a whole corridor.
First of all, I think my own personal ethics on life are, I think, enough to keep me going on the right path. And I think that there are enough negative aspects about the organizational church that you're very well aware of. I'm not against it. I identify myself as a Catholic. I was raised, I was baptized, I was confirmed, I was married in the church. My children were baptized in the church. But as far as practicing it, it seems almost like a pro forma thing that I don't really need to do.
And now comes the music.
Don't really need to do.
No.
Yikes.
Like, this is there's so many things to say about this.
Oh yeah, there's
number one, the incredible, horrible fallacy of people saying like, "Oh, I'm a Catholic. Oh, I'm a Christian," and that makes you. It's pretty similar to the insanity of people saying like, I magically transform myself into a woman. Okay, but nothing changed. But I said it, so it must be true. It's the same kind of logic that says like, "Oh, I'm a Catholic." Well, how do we know you're a Catholic? Well, because I said I'm a Catholic, and that makes me a Catholic. It's like, oh, by the way, Stephen, I'm a farmer. It's like, you are? Okay, like, well, do you own a farm? Nope. Do you ever go to a farm? Nope. Do you ever raise animals or
do anything mildly related to farming?
No. Mildly related to farming? Nope, never do it. Nope. I just self-identify as a farmer. That makes me a farmer, y'all. I sometimes chew on on straw. Does that make me a farmer? It's like, oh my gosh. So, yeah, what do you think about Mr. Fauci there being his own authority?
Oh, there are many, many words that I. But we knew that he held this sort of viewpoint back when he essentially said that I am the science and I cannot be questioned, and that I am the truth. He effectively kind of said a variant of I am the truth, the way, and the life, because that's what a lot of these modern spiritual-esque persons that try and stay away from kind of faith and organized religion, because they don't want the idea of obeying a god that's above them. They want themselves to be their own deity. They want themselves to be the ultimate authority and the ultimate truth. And unfortunately, it is a massive indictment of how our society currently operates, because it's not just Fauci that operates that way. Our society pushes everyone to see themselves as the ultimate authority in their lives, and that they don't have to abide or they don't have to obey or kneel to a higher power other than themselves. And yes, Zaz, you were right. He will rue the day he decided that there is one Alpha and Omega. And, well, Fauci, good luck. Very good line.
By the way, I don't know if you saw, like, behind him and that BBC reporter, like, there was, like, his entire, security detail, like, walking around the grounds and all. People like this, people who have literally, like, pissed off half the world because of the evil they've done, they always talk about how benevolent they are, but they everywhere they go, they have to go with, like, a massive, like, security detail, because they know they live in this, like, alternate reality where they believe they're God's gift to humanity, and yet people everywhere they go, people hate them, like, with a passion. That is Trudeau, by the way. Trudeau cannot go anywhere in public without his, like, massive security detail, because he knows the Canadian public hates him, hates his guts, and they would beat him up in a second if he didn't have his little security team, like, walking around protecting, dear leader, like our fearless leader,
Fearless.
like Rocky Bowen.
Fearless. Yeah, that's definitely the word for
fearless with his security detail. Yeah. Anyway, so those are the kind of, like, quick stories, but let's talk about the big story for the weekend.
Yep.
We've got
I was trying to make a post about it, and then I tried to make a copy, and it was like this whole lot of Windows code, and it was like...
Yeah. The grand return of Alex Jones. We're going to make the frogs gay. Talk about that, man.
Yes, let's talk about that. So, from the Post-Millennial Breaking,
by the way, he was right about that, if you're wondering. He was right about that.
Yes, they did make the frogs transgender.
That's right.
So, Alex Jones will be reinstated after overwhelming majority vote to bring him back. This was actually a very interesting tactic that Elon Musk did. So the people of X have spoken, voting overwhelmingly to bring controversial journalist Alex Jones back to the platform that he was permanently banned back in 2018. Musk ran a poll on X and had users decide whether or not to bring Jones back, which is a vote for freedom of speech or censorship. Once the vote was in, Elon Musk confirmed that Alex Jones would be reinstated. So this was his post: reinstate Alex Jones. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. So, of 1,966,000 votes, 70.1% were in yes. So, that's pretty cool.
Yep. Now, Stephen, did you actually hear about why he originally got banned from Twitter? What was the original reason?
Oh, what was the original reason?
Yeah, I'm curious, because I listened to an entire segment by Biba Fry. He went through the whole thing.
You talk. I'll try and look it up.
Okay, so a lot of people have this false idea that, or they were convinced that Alex Jones was kicked off of Twitter because of something he said about the Sandy Hook victims. But it turns out that was nowhere near what actually happened. He was not, and that wasn't even in contention for the reasons. Actually, they had Joe Rogan had back when what was the original founder of Twitter, Stephen? Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey and that crazy censorious kind of hack or hag, that banned Alex Jones. They basically said okay, he got banned because first strike was something like he some kid got beat up or fell or something like that, and they posted it, but the final strike was and a reporter named Oliver Darcy, who was absolutely guilty of everything. He was Oliver Darcy was doing some extremely nefarious and incredibly underhanded things to try to cancel his sponsors and to go after his supporters and all that kind of stuff. And of course, like Oliver Darcy's playing the victim. He's like, "Oh, poor me. Alex Jones was mean to me. Victim here." You know, that was the whole idea.
According to Zaz, he was banned for being mean to reporter.
Yes, he was. Now, most people believe that the Sandy Hook, the whole Sandy Hook affair, that was like, oh, Alex Jones was like said horrible, mean things about the people of like Sandy Hook, and he sent people after them to harass them. None of that is true. Yeah. And then the worst part is that people think that people believe that he got charged by, or like found guilty by a court of everything that people accused him of about Sandy Hook. But that isn't true at all. Because what happened was the Sandy Hook hoax was that, they basically threw everything at him. But the only thing that the court basically used something called a default verdict, which is basically they accused him of not producing the appropriate amount of discovery. And so the judge basically unilaterally said, like, well, you didn't give us what we wanted, so I'm going to declare you guilt. Or I'm going to basically declare you in default. And now the only thing we have to do is to decide how much are you liable for. And they came up with a ridiculous number, like the insane number that they came up with. It was basically a kangaroo court. So the nice thing is that now that Alex Jones is back on X, and now that more people are putting light to the story, it's great, because that means that we're now going to get more people are going to find out that they were lied to about Alex Jones, and that he's nowhere near the boogeyman that they made him out to be. It's not. He was actually a very good man, like with a lot of integrity. So I'm really glad about that. Alex Jones, I think he's a great guy. Does he get everything right? No, I think he's kind of a lot of very bombastic personality. He's very much like Steven Crowder in his approach. He's part comedian, part performer kind of thing. He's a bit like what would be the other one, like Vaush
on the left.
Vaush on the left. He's kind of like what's his name? Cenk Uygur on the left.
Okay, I did give Shank some credit. Shank finally said, let's have enough. Let's stop. And he's like, I'm for Palestine, but can we please stop calling for the genocide of the Jews?
Yeah, he's like, that's kind of a little.
I'll give you some credit for that.
Credit where credit is due, right? So it's great that Alex Jones is back. Quick question for you, Stephen. Do you think that getting him back on Twitter X, via a poll is the right move?
Well, I think that it showed that Elon is more concerned about the users of Twitter and the people that are subscribing to Twitter than the advertisers. I think everybody had a very good chuckle when Elon Musk told Bob Iger essentially to go F himself. Because Bob Iger and the advertising class will still advertise on Meta.
On
Meta. And there are lots of issues on Meta/Facebook/Instagram with advertising for gay hookup apps and stuff like that. And there's all sorts of issues regarding that. And he pressured Bob Iger on that. But Bob Iger was just looking for an excuse to ditch him. And he's like, hey, if the advertisers are ditching, let's, instead of making this a platform that panders to the advertisers, let's make this a platform for the people. And what better than to ask the people how they feel about whether this is a platform that stands for free speech, even if people disagree. And so I'm all for it. I'm some things that Alex Jones says, I'm gonna okay, whatever.
He's kooky, but he's not dangerous.
No, he's not dangerous.
That the thing, people try to claim that he's dangerous. That's just nuts. He's not dangerous. No. He covers a lot of things. He's very he's very ahead of most people. He actually predicted. I saw this one interview. We're saying I think it was the PPD podcast with Patrick Bet-David. They were saying he predicted the war in Ukraine before it ever happened. I think it was like half a year before it happened. He predicted that it was going to happen, and people were like, "Whoa, how does he know?" It's like, It's like, I read the news. Like, I was following everything that was happening, and that, like, it was already out there. He does good research, so he's always ahead of the game and knows what's going to come before it ever comes, which is great. I think that's great. Final thing, I think that, so Stephen, you know that on Sunday there was a Twitter Spaces. I think was it Twitter Spaces with a massive collection of some of the biggest voices in conservatism, like from Elon Musk to Jack Posobiec to Alex Jones to Vivek Ramaswamy to a whole bunch of like just major players. Like Elijah Schaefer was in there. All at the same time, which was amazing. And this is cool to see that you're now having so many amazing voices that are on what is undeniably the most free speech platform on the internet. And this is breaking the control, the stranglehold that the left once had on information flow. It is now wide open. It's breached. It's like, think of this as like the Great Wall of China with a gigantic breach in the middle, and then people can just kind of like flow in and out, and they can't do anything to stop it right now. That is why this is so significant.
Now, I will say, Zaz, I do agree with you that even if the poll had been, I think the poll was, it would have been funnier if like the poll had said no, and then he would have been said, screw it anyway. And just it's like, this is a free speech platform, and that's what I took over this platform to become. And it doesn't matter if the bots try and make a say differently, because I still run this thing.
I think with the theory that I heard, which I actually agree with, I think this is right. He didn't do it because, like, I don't think he did that because he was hoping that, he wasn't doing it as a pure, whatever the crowd decides I'll do. I think it was more of a PR move. It's easier to justify putting him on there if it's a poll. I think that's what it's like banking is a PR move. Not that he wasn't intending or planning, but it just makes it easier because you're like, well, it wasn't my decision. It was the people's decision. That's a much easier sell and defense than just unilaterally doing it.
I did it because I run the thing.
Yeah, because if he does it unilaterally, then he gets attacked immediately. Whereas if he's like, let's put it this way. Imagine if he says, you know what, I'm going to put Alex Jones. He's already decided. But then he decides, you know what, just to make this a little more PR friendly, I'm going to put it as a poll, because he probably accurately he probably knew that he was gonna get like the poll go his way. But I think it's a PR move, and I'm like, you know what, I'm cool with that. That's cool. If he had actually done it and he got the wrong answer, and then said like, well, I can't do it anymore, then I would be like, yeah, I'd be super critical of that. But yeah, PR move. It was a gamble. I think it worked. I think it's better for thing going forward. So that's great. Great to hear. I'm really glad that Alex Jones is back, and definitely support him if you can. All right. But let's talk about all of the legal stuff going on in the States right now. The lawfare, Stephen. Let's do this.
Yep. So Trump legal team files motion to pause proceedings pending appeal. Special counsel Jack Smith has asked Supreme Court to review Trump's appeal in expedited manner. Lawyers for former President Donald Trump filed a motion Tuesday urging U.S. District Court Judge Tanya Chutkan to pause proceedings against Trump in the January 6th case while his appeal is pending. Trump faces charges accusing him of working to overturn the results of the 2020 election. He lost to Democrat Joe Biden before the violent riot by his supporters at the U.S. Capitol. He has denied any wrongdoing. In a ruling from earlier this month, Chutkan rejected arguments by Trump's lawyers that he was immune from federal prosecution. Chutkan wrote in the office of the president does not confer a lifelong get-out-of-jail-free pass. Former presidents enjoy no special conditions on their federal criminal liability. Defendant may be subject to federal investigation, indictment, prosecution, conviction, and punishment for any criminal acts undertaken while in office. Tuesday's filing by Trump's legal team comes after special counsel Jack Smith asked the U.S. Supreme Court to review his appeal in an expedited manner to prevent any delays that could push back the trial, currently set to begin March 4th.
Yeah. The argument I heard for the against, okay, this is the argument I heard, is that the reason why you don't want to allow any state or anybody to basically go after the president for legal lawfare is because if you set the precedent that the president can be sued by anyone, any state at any time, then you basically open the floodgates for any future president can essentially be sued at any time by a state that just doesn't like him.
Yep.
If you set that precedent, this is why the protection, this is safeguard of if the president does something wrong while in office, you have to impeach him, and then you have to convict him in the Senate, and then he's liable for criminal, for criminal prosecution. Jack Smith is trying to bypass that entirely, and he's just like, well, this helps us politically to remove what is by far the most significant threat to our hold on power, which is the re-election of Trump. And so, like, we're going to use the law to try to, like, bypass that and try to, like, make Trump out to be, like, some horrible boogeyman. And then that's going to be our way to victory. That's basically the idea. So the idea that Jack Smith is a moral sheriff who just wants to do the right thing and he just wants to do right by the American people, BS, complete and total, like crap. The guy is a political hack who will do anything he can to hold on to the power that his party and his people have. Like it's incredible. Like I genuinely wonder if people actually believe that this is all oh, these are just benevolent people who just want to do the right thing. I'm like, give me a break. I don't know what you think, Steve.
Oh no, what
do you think about this whole approach? Why they're doing this?
So let's evaluate. So let's go by the quotes. Shootkin. Former presidents enjoy no special conditions on their federal criminal liability. Agree or disagree?
Jukin?
Well, like that quote. Former presidents enjoy no special conditions on their federal criminal liability.
I disagree. I think that they do, like, what they do during office, I don't think that they can be charged for that.
Okay, but what about, like, after they're in office?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, after and particularly, again, the whole idea is the precedent. The idea that you can charge somebody afterwards is, again, a terrible precedent to set, right? Mm-hmm. Particularly, like, if they did something that was outside of their capacity as president. So if a president, was charged because, like Biden, for example, making side deals and getting all sorts of extra money, that's completely outside of his role or his responsibilities as vice president, then then you can go after him for that. But if he's doing his duty as the vice president, or like the president's doing his duty as president, then he needs to be able to do his job effectively without the fear that he's going to be absolutely nailed afterwards. That's the problem.
Well, I'm fine with the standard of what he did during the presidency, impeachment, go through the Senate, go through the proper process. Yeah. And yes, I agree with you, Zaz. They do not want the cases against the Bidens to go through. They don't want the case against Hillary Clinton to go through. I'm of the opinion, and I've been of this opinion the entire time, that all three should be in jail. All three. If you break the law, it doesn't matter who you are, what position you have. You are not above the law simply because you were a former president.
The problem with that idea is that the president is a very special role, right? Mm-hmm. The whole classified documents idea.
Yep.
The idea that the reason why they have that is because the president has a very specific role that he has to be able to fulfill, and that is horribly hampered if he has to declassify every single thing before he's able to use it in his role as president. There's a reason why the president has to be able to operate in a different way. It's a special role that's different than every other role in the USA. And the second thing, like I said, the problem is, again, that if you start indicting presidents, so this isn't like the president was not that they didn't try to hold him accountable while he was president. They did. After the whole January 6th, they did the impeachment and it failed.
Yes.
Okay, so
and I'm not supportive of that one.
They went through the proper process. Like that, the result.
I'm not supportive of the Jack Smith indictment. I think because that was actions that he took while he was president.
Yes. What I mean is that he's trying to bypass what is a safeguard. That's what I mean.
I understand that. I understand that. But what I'm saying is that simply because you were formerly the president does not give you an out to all future crimes.
Well, no,
because that is what the quote from Chutkin meant. That is word for word what the quote from Chutkin was. Former presidents, so the judge, former presidents enjoy no special conditions on their federal criminal liability. Just because you were the former president does not mean you are immune from all criminal prosecution.
No, but the problem
from crimes
is that
you commit after you leave.
Yes, but the problem is Chutkin is violating the U.S. Constitution. If that's just a personal opinion, knock yourself out. But he cannot just unilaterally make a statement and be like, I declared that this is now the case. It's like, well, no, you have to follow the official precedents of the Constitution. You can't just unilaterally declare like, well, I just feel like presidents should pay for their crimes if I feel that they've committed a crime and the crime benefits me politically. Like, that's a problem with this quote. The quote is like, in general, I agree. If you commit a crime, you should be held accountable for it. I agree with that. The problem here is that we have to take into account that A, this is the president, and B, that there are special rules that they're trying to bypass that are already in the rule book, which is the Constitution. That is the problem.
Okay, and I have already stated many times that like the cases that they're bringing against Trump in Georgia and the cases that they're bringing against Trump in Washington, D.C., those are the RICO case and the case for January 6th. Those are cases that they're trying to bring from while he was president, and they're trying to expedite it. And they're bringing these indictments because they know, well, there's a few reasons. They know that it will garner support behind him. And they know that it will make him more vulnerable in the general.
Yeah. We have to remember, too, Stephen, though, that...
No, Zaz, I'm referring to, like, on camera, he said to a reporter, I could have declassified this document. I did not. Here it is. I'm showing it to you. Isn't this interesting? It's classified. That is a felony.
There's more to that story than... You're right. That's a quote. That's an accurate quote. But there's more to that story that we could get into, but we don't want to get too far off...
Well, but I'm just saying that we cannot say unilaterally that presidents, simply because they have been former presidents, are immune from all criminal liability, past, present, and future.
Right, but we also cannot say that we're going to throw all precedent and all legal, jurisprudence out the window because this helps us politically. That's the pushback I would say. No, a president shouldn't just be able to get away with whatever he does under presidency, but that also doesn't mean that you can just throw all legal jurisprudence out the window because we just want to. That's what Jack Smith is doing.
Well, yeah, no, and I've openly said that I'm not in favor of what Jack Smith is doing. Yeah, the only case that I am 100% behind is the one in Florida.
No, okay, here's where I differ. I believe that all four cases, the Georgia case, the D.C. case, the Florida case, and the New York case, all four of them are complete farces. I do not believe that they are legitimate court cases that are brought up because, I don't believe that any of them are legitimate. I think that they're all politically motivated and garbage cases. Now, do they have some kind of some kind of a case in Florida? Maybe that there's some validity to it. That doesn't mean that it's not political, and that doesn't mean that it's even right. Because let's face it, the fact that they're not going after Biden, it's transgressions. The fact that they didn't go after Hillary, give me a break. I don't believe that any one of these is legitimate. I think that they're all garbage. I do. I've listened to hours of commentary on all of these cases, And the fact is that these are basically nothing more than lawfare.
Okay.
Obvious.
So if they were to go after Biden, if they were to go after Hillary, if they were to go after Obama, would you support all 4 of them being sent to prison?
Like Obama, Hillary,
Biden, and Trump. All 4.
Okay, well, like Hillary and Biden are different because they were like Hillary was never a president. Obama was only vice president.
Yep,
she wasn't president. Obama was vice president, so he didn't even have the right to have those documents. Period. Obama, for what specifically?
Well, because he also held on to documents afterwards.
Well, so did Bill Clinton.
That's like idea, every president has. Like there are differences in how Biden, Hillary, and Trump address that.
Yes,
which is interesting.
Here's the thing. Okay, so this is, and I listened to Viva Fry talk to Robert Barnes, and they broke it down like every single court case. They broke it down. I recommend go and look at the Viva Fry Robert Barnes interview. He broke everything down in perfect detail. Here's the bottom line. Okay, they went after Trump for 4 years. They couldn't get him on anything. They tried on Russia collusion. They tried it on everything. They try to like go through everything with a fine tooth comb. They couldn't find a thing. Suddenly, it's obvious that they set him up because of what they did with they set him up in Mar-a-Lago when they sent agents there. They told them like, here's how you have to lock up. Here's how you have to do all these things. And they were fully aware of everything that was going on. And then suddenly they just like raid his place. Like the idea that Trump was now cooperating is a lie. And I've heard this from multiple sources. The idea that he was not cooperating is garbage. He was absolutely in communication with everyone. The raid was completely like, completely like, out of the blue. Even Trump was surprised that the raid even happened. Like we're talking about people that do raids on people all over the United States for garbage reasons. So if you're going to go by the default, what is the most likely, like the what do you call it? Occam's razor. What is the most likely explanation? That Trump is clearly up to some nefarious bad things with
I'm not saying that.
Or that the government that's already proven itself to be incredibly corrupt and goes and has proven itself time and time again to go after political opponents for totally political reasons. They're just doing more of the same. That is the way I'm leaning.
Okay. I have a simple kind of question for this. If you know that the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, has audited you in the past, how are you going to fill out your taxes?
How am I going to fill out my taxes?
Like, are you going to be
meticulous?
You're going to be very meticulous because you know that they're coming for you.
Yeah, nobody.
So
no, but right there, you're assuming that this is Trump's fault. That's the assumption.
Because it is
that this is Trump's fault. No, they set him up, man.
Well, it's hit. Okay, they set him up because he told a reporter, "I did this." Like the guy is like that is the stupidest thing you could do. The stupidest.
No. You're okay. Again, this is the same kind of line of logic that says, "Oh, Trump deserved everything that happened to him after January 6th because he had the audacity to even have a rally or like a speech outside of DC or something like that." I'm like,
you're strawmanning me.
I don't.
This is not fair. You're strawmanning my argument with that, and I never said that. I said that I have always stated that if he commits crimes, that he should be prosecuted for that. People who commit crimes should be prosecuted for that. If you are being investigated by the federal government, and you say, because I have no idea why, you would go on a show where you knew you were being recorded, and you're like, hey, look at this. Isn't it so special? Look at this crime that I committed. Like, what?
Yeah. Okay, so you're
he did that. You have to admit he did that.
I know he did. I know he did. I know. I'm not disputing. No. Let me put my statement properly. I don't dispute the quote. I dispute the implications of the quote. Is that clear?
What are the implications?
The implications. You're assuming that the quote itself is proof that he broke the law. I'm saying that the quote itself has a lot of moving parts that people are assuming that it means something that it doesn't. I've listened to lots of people who've talked about that quote. They assume like, oh, he's holding up a classified document. First of all, is that an audio or is that a video, Stephen?
Audio.
Is that audio? Which means you don't actually see what he was holding up to you.
No, you don't.
No, which means you have to speculate as to what he was holding up or what he was talking about, don't you?
Okay, so you're saying that he was lying to the reporter?
No, I'm saying that people are lying about what he was holding up. People are claiming that he was holding up a classified document
because he said he was.
The reporter. No, he didn't. He said that he said like, you know, this, but he did. But again, people that pointed. No, again, he never said that this is a classified document he was holding up. A lot of people have pointed out that what he was most like, even Ben Shapiro himself said this. He said that he was that the more likely scenario is that he was holding up a newspaper talking about a very specific event, and that he was referring to the classified documents in that specific instance. As part of a much larger context of the things that were happening, and here's the rub. The question is that specific classified document from that incident, was that in the documents that they had when they grabbed the documents?
This is the quote. This is the quote.
Okay.
This totally wins my case, you know, except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. Look at this. This was done by the military and given to me. As president, I could have declassified, but now I cannot.
Okay. So what is it that he's referring to?
He is. What is this? What is this?
What did he hold up? Yeah, what did he hold up?
He is showcasing like this. It was. He showcases a big pile of papers, and he says, "This is off the record. This was the Defense Department and Mark Milley. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. Pages long. Look." So he's referring to a bunch of different pages. All are highly classified, and he's showing this to a reporter that has no right to see them.
Again, you are assuming that that what is being referred to is the classified documents. Here's the question I'll ask you. If those classified documents are the thing that he was showing them, why haven't they produced them in the stuff that they seized from Mar-a-Lago? That's the question that Robert Barnes asked. If he indeed had those documents in the boxes in Mar-a-Lago, why have they not presented that as evidence in the suit against them?
Why haven't they produced those specific documents that he's showcasing to the reporter?
Why were those documents not in the indictment that Jack Smith brought up about Mar-a-Lago, or like about Mar-a-Lago? Why were they not listed as part of the indictment, or like part of the evidence against him in Mar-a-Lago?
Jack Smith's not the one bringing Mar-a-Lago.
Okay, whoever's doing the Mar-a-Lago lawsuit, okay? Like whoever's doing the Mar-a-Lago lawsuit, they don't actually have those in the evidence against Trump in that indictment or in that case in Florida.
Well, the case in Florida is that he had classified documents and he didn't declassify them. His argument was that he declassified them all.
Okay. That
was the statement from Trump.
That was the defense that he's making. Again, here's what I will say. You are giving way too much, an insane amount of benefit of the doubt to a criminal law, to a justice system that is, over the last 4 years, has shown itself to be insanely corrupt. I'm
by pointing to one case and saying this was a smoking gun. This is where Trump went wrong. All of the other cases are spurious.
Okay, so you're basically saying, like, okay, they threw the entire what do you call it, the Russian collusion hoax, which is a complete like garbage.
And I called that out.
Okay, and they threw every other indictment product claiming it's racist. They threw an impeachment at him, all these other things at him, right? All the way through. And yet here they have one, and you're giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're all acting in good faith, even though they're acting in horrible faith in everything else. You're giving them the benefit of the doubt that
Danny, this is very unfair. This is exceptionally unfair attacks. I'm not saying that they're treating him fairly. No. I'm not saying that at all. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that if people admit to committing a crime, then they should be held liable for it. It doesn't matter who it is. Except that the argument that you're making, Danny, is that you're okay with like prosecuting people, and then when I say okay, they all should be prosecuted, you're like, nope, not Trump. It's a special exception.
No, I'm not saying that Trump.
Okay, let's finish this all. Let's finish this all. Okay. Should all 4 of them go to prison?
All 4 of who?
All 4: Biden, Hillary, Trump, Clinton. I mean, Biden, Obama.
If they're all okay, it's a very simple answer. If they're found guilty by by a legitimately brought up case that's full and fair, yes.
Okay.
The problem here is that the assumption that's being operated here is that the Biden justice system has been incredibly evil, wicked, and totally at it 100 times. But you're saying here's this one time. Oh, now they're playing fair. Now they're doing this by the book. Now
my case has always been that they all should be arrested. Every single one.
If they're guilty. I wouldn't even say that.
They should all face trials. They should all face equal punishment. And if they're all guilty, then send them all to jail. And I believe all 4 of them are guilty.
Well, that's fine. You can believe that they're all full of them are guilty. I believe that the way that this is seriously. If I saw a criminal trial in Cuba against a political dissident, and they're like, oh, we found them guilty in our courts, I'm like, I'm gonna basically say that is insanely suspect.
But if they were all facing trial, then it wouldn't be a political sham.
No, because because you have to remember, if you have Venezuela, if you have Cuba, if you have Russia, if you have China, if you have these obviously evil, totally corrupt governments that have justice systems that are incredibly corrupt and totally attacked political opponents, if they're gonna put up a court case and be like, oh, you see, they went to court, we tried to be fair, and they were found guilty by the system and all that kind of stuff, therefore you can be confident that they're guilty. I'm gonna be like, no, I don't trust those systems to be fair. And in this case, I'm not being duplicitous. I'm saying the system itself, the justice system in America, the DOJ especially, is insanely corrupt. And so I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt that, in this case, that every other case against the parents and the school boards, against the Catholics, against all these other places, they're corrupt and everything. Here, here they must be acting in good faith, and everything that they're doing is by the book, and they're not doing anything evil or corrupt. Just look at what they did to Alex Jones. Everything that was completely garbage. So this is why I'm not inconsistent. I'm treating them as they are, not as I want them to be.
Let's just final question this. Should all 4 face trial? No. Yes or no? Should all 4 face trial?
Okay. I can't answer that question as simply as you want because we're not in a vacuum, Stephen. We're not in a vacuum. We are if you have an incredibly corrupt justice system that is bending the law all the time, do you think that the right thing to do, the just thing to do, is to throw all of them through that grinder, especially when that justice system is going to be favoring Hillary, Obama, and Biden, but it's going to be horribly one-sided towards Trump? Do you think that Trump? Okay, I'll give you this. Do you believe that Trump would get a fair trial anywhere he's tried?
Not anywhere. No, I've said that. He will certainly be convicted in Georgia and Washington D.C. In Florida, he'll likely face a fair trial.
Okay, and you think that's see, this is the problem. Is that
it's being brought forth by Republicans in a Republican district with a Republican judge. I don't see how you see that trial, that case is going to be presented unfairly. Like, yes, I believe they should be bringing they should have brought forth articles of impeachment against Biden. They should have Trump should have done what he promised and locked her up. He should have gone after Hillary with criminal investigations. He didn't.
Absolutely.
But this trial will be presented in a fair manner.
Okay, I will say that is a big statement, because there are a ton of questions that I've listened to legal scholars and legal observers, like, who have background, who've looked at that trial and said all of the stuff that they used against him and all of the things that they did were incredibly suspect. The way that the FBI acted, the way that they're trying to, this is a novel legal theory that they're bringing up against them in Mar-a-Lago. It's a novel theory. It's not established precedent, but that's not a problem. This is not a established, like, Trump is getting.
It's never been done before. But
exactly,
we've also never had somebody's outright say, "Here's classified documents. Here you go."
He didn't give them. Okay, again, once again, you're assuming that
That's what the audio recording is.
No, that is not. I'm going to disagree with that 100%. You cannot prove to me right now that what he was holding up was a classified document. You have no proof of that. You have to infer based on what he said.
You're not inferring much. Like,
you have to
this
infer.
Is okay. What is the principle of, like, that which requires the least assumption?
No, you're saying that's not proof. That's you're basically saying, like, well, there's only one answer because I can come up with a reasonable argument for it. Like, that is not the way it works, Stephen. There are multiple options, and I've heard many people say that no, what he was holding up was not a classified document to that reporter. That's what the media is trying to throw out there. Again, and it's the whole thing about what they did in Mar-a-Lago and that he was not cooperating. I've heard multiple testimonies of people say that was a complete BS setup. They were setting him up. They knew exactly what they were going to do. They set him up from the beginning. They were trying to, they basically tried to set up an actual way to get him on the classified documents. Why didn't he hand over those documents? Because they were combined with a whole bunch of personal documents in those boxes. It wasn't like this tidy little collection of, like, here's, like, classified documents boxes and here's personal items. All these things were mixed up together, which means he would have to get a ton of his aides and people that he works with to go through those boxes and separate. Here's the classified. Here's not. Here's this. Here's that. And he was also working under the precedent that was set before, which is that in every single past instant with every former president, you get prosecuted for, like, having classified documents. That was the assumption that he was operating under. Suddenly, they just changed the rules all. And it's like, we're going to change the rules now magically, and we're going to hold you accountable for something that no president in American history has ever been held accountable for. You don't consider that suspect?
Well, I'm just saying that if they're changing the rules for Trump, then they should change the rules for all of them.
But, okay, you don't think that there's anything wrong with them suddenly making a magic new. By the way, even though we have never done this for any president in U.S. history, we're making this magic new rule that former presidents can now be charged criminally for having classified documents, and we're going to use a magically new novel theory.
Let's shift this a little bit. Okay. If there is video evidence, like, judging by everything that you've said so far, if there's video evidence, or if there, let's say there's audio of Trump threatening Melania.
Okay.
Would you say that that's a fair conviction? Would that be a fair indictment if they came after him? Like, if she had bruises and there's audio? Like, yes, that would sound,
because that is an established legal criminal charge. Okay? Have people in the past, Stephen, gotten charged for wife beating?
Yes.
All throughout history. Have people in the history ever been charged for like having classified documents for 10 U.S. presidents?
No.
Okay, imagine. Okay, let me put it in a better analogy. Imagine if there was like okay, let's say you live in a city, okay, and this city, they've never charged anyone in like 30 years. They've never once charged a single person for like like crossing the street, like outside of a traffic stop or something like that, right? And then suddenly they're like, you know what? We just made up this brand new rule that basically says that if you start crossing into the crosswalk like a second before the light turns green, you're now criminally liable for like criminal jaywalking. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is a fair? And this they charge you after the fact, after that breach of the law that they just suddenly decided they're not going to enforce in full? Do you think that's a fair conviction or fair charge?
No, not unless they're convicting not unless they're going after everybody.
No, you're saying that it's a fair charge as long as they're now charged with the same charge after the case.
Yes.
I disagree with that. I disagree because they're what they're doing is they're setting you up. They're saying, oh, you didn't break any laws, but now we're going to make up a new law that you basically broke, even though it wasn't illegal at the time. This is
no. That's not what's happening.
Yes, it is.
He broke the law, and then what's happened? Yes, he did. Absolutely.
No, the novel theory is that
the novel theory is that they're going after presidents for breaking this law. But I'm saying that up until now they didn't go after presidents. And if they're having the precedent of going after presidents, as starting with Trump, then they should go after them all.
No. See, I disagree with that because the problem is that they've already established in the Supreme Court with the Bill Clinton, the sock drawer thing, and all that kind of stuff. They go look it up if you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've seen it.
You know about it, right? Okay, that Supreme Court decision had basically said that, hey, by the way, the president has unilateral ability to declassify any documents that he wants. They're trying to find a loophole, a kind of a magic loophole in the law to try to get him after the fact. So he's operating under the assumption that I can work with the archives people to try to get these documents back to them, and they're like, nope, you broke the law. You darn evil dictator. Now we're gonna you throw everything we can legally at you. And unfortunately, a lot of people, especially people on the left, they jump on this like, oh, this is clear he's a criminal. Why? Because they have a vested interest and they have confirmation bias. They want this to be true, so they will jump on it because they're like, oh, well, I think Trump is evil. So anything, even if the thing that they charge him with is completely garbage, I'm happy to support this because hey, this gets what I want, which is like Trump gets his just desserts, even though he didn't actually break a law, and even though it's contentious on whether or not he even broke the law. Okay, there's a lot of legal wrangling on whether or not this is even a thing that you can charge a president with. Okay, it's a lot more complicated. You're making it sound like it's super simple. Like Trump, they told Trump, don't touch this button, and he just touched it anyways. That's not what happened. No, it's not what happened at all, man. Come on. I totally
exactly what happened.
No, it's not, man. I totally agree. No, you can laugh all you want. That doesn't make you right. I'll put it that way.
I'm just saying you are using the argument of but Trump.
No, I'm not using the argument of Trump. If it was to Biden, I would be just as opposed to it.
But if they tried, Danny, this is how you've argued this entire campaign.
What?
You've said, I disagree with that notion, but it's okay if Trump does it.
It's not okay if Trump. I never said it's okay if Trump does it. I said that the justice system is incredibly corrupt, and I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I've also said that if Trump is guilty, I would like to, want him to face the proper thing. But I don't believe that the justice system and the way that they're portraying Trump and the way that they're operating is a fair way. I also don't believe that this specific charge is a legitimate charge. I think that they're making up a completely new law that he supposedly broke after the case in order to get him. That's what I'm saying, that they're basically railroading him on purpose, and it's incredibly obvious that they have a vested interest, a political interest to interfere politically. So the way I'm saying it, you're arguing that everyone should be held accountable for their actions. I'm saying this is not happening in a vacuum, and that is the approach that I'm taking. It's the same thing. If somebody was being charged in a fully equally proper justice system in Canada or the UK, I'm like, should it be charged? Absolutely. Do I think that the courts are going to operate fairly? Sure. If they were operating in Cuba or Russia, like I've said, or China, where the governments are corrupt, where the justice system is totally broken and corrupt, do I think that the fair trial over there is an actual fair trial? No. I don't believe that the U.S. courts are operating fairly. I believe that the justice system, a lot of the judges over there, and a lot of the courts are not operating fairly. We've covered this with the Kyle Rittenhouse, with the Derek Chauvin, with all this stuff. The breaches of fair trials in those cases were so
they were egregious. Yeah, Minnesota AG was terrible.
Exactly. And what I'm saying is that we're not operating in a vacuum. The justice system is absolutely corrupt to the bone. The American political system, media system is operating in a very bad way. We've seen countless examples of people being railroaded unfairly and the justice system throwing people that are innocent into jail, including tons of the January 6 people.
Yep.
All I'm doing is I'm being consistent and saying, just as they were like unjust and corrupt with January 6ers, with previous court cases, with going after parents, the normal pattern is that they're operating the exact same way here. That is what I'm saying. I'm going to give more benefit of the doubt to Trump than to the justice system. That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I believe that all of these things are suspect.
Okay. All right. I'm fine with you having that opinion. That's fine.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate your permission.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go to Missouri.
Let's go to
Missouri AG launches investigation into media matters. AG Andrew Bailey. I'm fighting to ensure progressive tyrants masquerading as news outlets cannot manipulate the marketplace in order to wipe out free speech. Investigation follows Texas attorney Ken Paxton's late November investigation into media matters. The Missouri AG said he has reasons to believe the activist media watchdog group used fraud to solicit donations from state residents to bully advertisers into pulling ads from the platform. Bailey also referred to X as the last platform dedicated to free speech in America. So, yep. This is a continuation on the story that we covered in November from Texas with Ken Paxton.
Yeah. Yes, but I will add one thing that I didn't know this, and apparently there's a major difference between Missouri launching this and Texas launching this. Do you know what? You know what the difference is?
Nope.
Okay, the difference is when the Texas AG launches it, because of the way Texas law works, the Texas AG can investigate, but then he has to hand it off to somebody else to do the actual prosecution, which takes a lot longer. Whereas in Missouri, the way that the laws work in Missouri, the Missouri AG can actually launch criminal charges and seek them out themselves. So they're much quicker and they can go directly after them rather than the long roundabout way in Texas, which is why a lot of people were hoping that Missouri would do this and not just Texas. So Texas jumped in first, which was a good sign.
Yep.
But Missouri jumping in means there's a much higher likelihood that this will be expedited and that this will actually lead to a full criminal charges against the people themselves. So that's good news. That's why I was like, this is a good story.
Okay. Moving on to the next one. And I am slow because I did that in reverse. Feds allege Tennessee discriminates. Tennessee! Hello, our Tennessean friends. Alleged Tennessee discriminates against people with HIV through aggravated prostitution law. Tennessee state law that elevates misdemeanor prostitution crimes to felonies on the same level as violent sexual offenses if the defendant has HIV illegally discriminates on the basis of disability. What?
That's low. Yes, that was the rationale that they used.
Oh my goodness.
You can believe that. Keep going.
The Justice Department alleged Friday as federal officials put back against laws that criminalize HIV transmission, which are still prevalent across much of the country, as they should be. In a letter to state officials, the department said Tennessee is subjecting people with HIV to harsher criminal penalties solely because of their HIV status in violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Under Tennessee state law, sex work crimes that are typically considered misdemeanors are elevated to felony aggravated prostitution charges if the individual has HIV, regardless of any actual risk of harm or likelihood of transmission, the Justice Department has said. Steeper charges come with potential sentence of 3 to 15 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. Are also considered violent sexual offenses that led a defendant on the state's sex offender registry, the Justice Department found. The department's investigation found several complainants who were harmed by the law after being convicted of aggravated prostitution have been considered registered sex offenders their whole lives. Should the state decline to enter negotiations to resolve the Justice Department's findings, the federal government may take appropriate action, including initiating a lawsuit.
By the way, this is the same government that wants to make everything easier for criminals. This is a pro-criminal government.
Oh yeah.
The okay. What do you think about this law, Stephen? Or this attack by the
Justice Department? System? Well, like laws that encourage there to be a punishment, especially if you do not disclose your HIV status to your partner, are totally meritable. If you have HIV and sleep with someone without telling them and transmit HIV to them, you should be charged criminally and be going to jail because you've essentially handed that person a death sentence.
Yep.
If you are committing prostitution, pimping yourself out with HIV, the Justice Department may say that there's not a risk of transmission, but there can be reduced risk of transmission, but there's still always a little bit of a risk.
Anti-freaking
science. Like, just face it, bud. If you have HIV, stop whoring yourself out. It's basic math. Basic common sense. Don't do it.
It's the idea that, like, you know, criminal. Okay, I've heard people in those street interviews say, like, well, what's the point of the criminal justice system? It's to reform people, and really we should like everything. I don't like the idea of punishment. I'm like, that's why we have a horrible, like, in the world full of crime, because you don't believe that like crimes equal punishment. You know, it's funny when you read the Bible, and particularly the Old Testament, all the laws about like, you know, criminality. It's like, yeah, it's like you do something like, you know, bad or like, you know, terribly evil. It's like death. It's like it wasn't even controversial. It's like, yep, you did something that harms the entire community, and you need to set a very strong example to keep people from doing this evil continually. The problem with our society, and this is why, remember, like, Stephen, do you remember when Matt Walsh did that whole segment on Singapore, and basically said that, like, you know, like we need a little more like Singapore here, because what they do is that like serious violent crimes, they're executed immediately. But secondly, is that if you commit a crime, you're caned. You're literally like beaten with a rod, like pretty much immediately, and you suffer the consequences of that thing. As a result, people are much less likely to commit crimes. Why? Because the penalties are so much bigger. The problem right now is that you're basically treating criminals with kid gloves in this totally like Soviet style, like, you know, like system that basically legalizes criminality and makes it illegal for you as a law-abiding to fight back. This is part of the reason why I absolutely believe in every way possible that the DOJ is a pile of human feces. They're the scum of the earth, and they're basically showing you that they're corrupt as hell, and they have no problem, like, you know, like pushing, like, you know, like pushing these kind of things. They're pro-criminal. That's the problem.
Yep, they are.
Yeah.
Well, Texas is not, at least for now. Texas Supreme Court rules against pregnant woman hours after she leaves state to obtain abortion. So, have you heard about this story, Denny?
I have not heard about the story.
So,
tell me about
Cox's baby has a condition. I don't think the baby's dead yet. So, pregnant woman whose fetus has a fatal condition. That's not true, Fox. That's not true.
What's the truth, Stephen?
So, she left Texas to obtain an abortion, her attorneys say. So that's what her attorneys say. The news came as the Texas Supreme Court ruled against Kate Cox, a 31-year-old mother of two, after she spent nearly a week seeking the court's permission to end her pregnancy. After a week of legal whiplash and threats of persecution from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, she's been forced to leave Texas to get health care outside of the state, said the Center for Reproductive Rights. Kate has been unable to get an abortion in Texas, even though her fetus has a fatal condition as continuing the pregnancy threatens her future fertility. Cox's baby has a condition known as trisomy 18, which the baby has an extra copy of chromosome 18. Diagnosis has a high likelihood of miscarriage or stillbirth and a low survival rate. The lawsuit, citing doctors, argued that continuing the pregnancy jeopardized both her health and her ability to have more children. So, hours after the Cox's attorney announced she had left Texas, the state Supreme Court issued its decision that ruled against Cox. It came 3 days after the court temporarily halted a lower judge ruling that gave her permission to get an abortion. No one disputes her pregnancy has been extremely complicated. Any parents will be devastated to learn their unborn child's trisomy 18 diagnosis. Some difficulties in pregnancy, however, even serious ones, do not pose the heightened risk to the mother the exception encompasses.
Mm-hmm.
So, essentially, what happened was they went through the process, and I had misheard this because, of course, Tim Pool had misreported this when he did.
Okay, so what's the story? What happened?
So, according to this story, her child had trisomy 18, and they went to the court. The lower court said, okay, go for it. And the Supreme Court said, no, your life may be difficult, but simply because your life is difficult does not give you authority to kill your kid. Mm-hmm. The way that I had heard about it from Tim Pool this afternoon was that the doctors had not confirmed that her child had a defect. They had sought to get an abortion while they were still analyzing the results.
Okay, so they were basically speculating that this kid might have it based on some...
And then they went to the courts while they were still speculating.
Okay, so they were basically going with a big speculation, but there's no proof that this baby has the condition. Because I know you and I have found out very, very clearly that a lot of
these early diagnoses are fake or false.
Yes. A lot of people end up having the babies and then we're supposed to have this, supposed to have that. Turned out it didn't happen. So very common occurrence. What is the law in the abortion laws in Texas? Do they have a 6-week heartbeat bill?
I'm fairly certain Texas is a 6-week, yes.
Okay, so very early heartbeat bills. And in order to basically get an abortion, you need to get very, very specific circumstances, right?
Okay, so I'm looking this up from Wikipedia, so don't hold this against me. A trigger law has been in effect since August 25th, 2022, which bans abortion in all cases except to save the life of the mother.
Oh, so they're trying to play the loophole. That's what they're trying to do.
Okay, so it is a 6-week. The only exception for abortions past 6 weeks is to save the life of the pregnant woman.
Yeah. Which in this case they're trying to say now is this.
And they actually updated this article today.
What'd they say?
Because they literally give an article, from yesterday, December 11th, 2023. Oh, okay. So, good on Wikipedia for being very fast. And they're updating.
Well, the idea here is that this woman's trying to play a loophole to her
to kill their kid.
Now, I love how Fox News, again, they used to be somewhat conservative and maybe a little more fair in the reporting, but I'm everything about this language, everything about the language in this article proves that they're
Fox News. You really have to search to find an actual conservative individual or an article.
Yeah.
So it's and that's the case. For pretty much every source. Every mainstream news outlet, of course, Fox News will be the most center of all the news outlets, especially by comparison to ABC, MSNBC, CNN, all of the other ones that are kind of the mainstream. But Fox is also run by the coach, or the Murdochs. And the Murdochs are establishment. Yeah. And the establishment is uniparty, so.
They basically sold out after Tucker Carlson. Well, I mean, some people would argue for Tucker Carlson.
Oh yeah,
Tucker Carlson was just the most latest victim. But yeah, anyways, they use pro-abortion language. That's what I'm trying to say. Which means that these guys are not objective reporters by any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, let's go to Iowa. What happened in Iowa?
Okay, so Iowa. Governor Kim Reynolds responds to satanic altar controversy with official statement and photo op as demonic display continues. So, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds condemned the presence of a satanic temple's altar to Baphomet at the state capitol on Tuesday after a firestorm of criticism erupted over the holiday display. Like many Iowans, I find the satanic temple's display in the capitol absolutely objectionable. In a free society, the best response to objectionable speech is more speech, and I encourage those of faith to join me today in praying over the capitol and recognizing the nativity scene that will be on display, the true reason for the season. Today, faithful Iowans gathered in the Capitol Rotunda to display the nativity and pray for peace. Free speech is a right afforded to all, but how we use it matters. Today's events is proof in the battle for good between good and evil, good will always prevail.
Yeah. This is the problem with anybody. Okay, I heard a state representative from Iowa, and he's like both a pastor and a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, well, as a pastor and a Christian, I disagree with this. But as my true calling, I'm like, he didn't say that, but basically saying as a state representative, it's like freedom of religion. And I'm like, dude, people. This is the problem with secularism and particularly liberalism is that you can't condemn. You can't take a moral stand. That's the problem. You can't take a moral stand, and they use the free speech idea or the idea. Freedom of religion as I can't take a moral stand because freedom of religion.
Okay.
And I'm like, I think Michael Knowles actually made a really good point that if you actually go back to the founders, the idea of freedom of religion, they would not have stood for something like this at all.
Yeah.
And he actually made a good case that you can make a very solid case that this is not freedom of religion, that this is a completely a morally vacuous thing that you can actually reject and oppose, both lawfully and legally, without breaking apart the idea of freedom of religion. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm of course immensely opposed to the idea of having a satanic a satanic altar in a state house.
Yeah,
I would be more of the opinion that we should be able to have these discussions, because I'm also of the opinion that they shouldn't be banning I'm totally of the opinion that they should not be banning Christmas trees and nativity scenes in the Calgary City Hall like they have been.
Okay.
And I think one of the rationales for why they haven't displayed nativity scenes is that they're just we're not going to display anything.
They try to take the universalist kind of approach, which is nothing's allowed, so that we avoid controversy.
Well, I'm just saying that either everything is allowed or nothing is allowed. And yes, I find Satanism absolutely deplorable. But if we are to say that our freedoms should be respected, as much as I find their beliefs deplorable, then we have to be able to give at least some leeway. And we have to be they have to be able to. I think in the state house is a little weird. If this was a member of the Iowan caucus or the Iowan Congress who was presenting this, then that would be a little different than it being a random citizen.
I think the problem here is that so let's clarify one thing. Freedom of religion, as opposed to the idea of division between church and state. Okay, the whole concept of the church and state argument is that there should not be a state religion. That was the founders idea. It's no state should have a state. For example, the state of Virginia should not be able to and basically say that the official religion of Virginia is Catholicism, and every other religion is hereby confer second-hand status or whatever. That's what they want.
That is actually what Michael Knowles was arguing for.
No.
Michael Knowles was saying there is a right and there is a wrong, and we should be able to shut down the wrong.
No, and I agree with that. I think sometimes we fall too much into the the freedom is everything kind of like approach. And so I think he's right, because if you look at the Bible, like neither in the New Testament or the Old Testament did they tolerate obviously depictions of not only to other gods but to other demons. And as Christians, sometimes I think he's right. I think sometimes as Christians, we in the name of like freedom and tolerance, sometimes we forget to that Bible does not endorse the idea of hypertolerism or hypertolerance, the idea that everything goes, and in order to be consistent, we have to allow everything. I think as Christians, and here's the thing I would say, if like for like the state representative, if he's a Christian, as a Christian, his worldview is that this is wrong. Like he knows that is wrong. He knows that something in him says this is wrong. There's something wrong with this, but he won't allow himself, because the virtue that he's following is the virtue of freedom and tolerance. Whereas I think as a Christian, he could say, no, this is wrong. We should not be allowing satanic symbols, because not only are they anti-society, they promote values that are antithetical to society, but they're also they're also evil. They're actually like promoting something that is harmful to society and something that's bad for society, right? Like you can't actually say that.
I'm not arguing that Satanism is bad for society.
Yeah,
but I'm also saying that what you're advocating for, like in places like New York, then they would say, okay, like they've said that Christianity is not our value system, and so we ban all nativity scenes, we ban everything, and we like it would allow for the opposite.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like it's like the power, allows people to do some pretty terrible things. I think one of the things that I liked in early on in the early Christian church is that they were very heavily opposed to infanticide. And that was one of the reasons why infanticide was eventually phased out.
Yeah.
Because even though infanticide was very popular and very common among like regular Romans, eventually it was phased out because it was like once the Christian the people who were like devout Christians, they were like, no, this is wrong. And I think all I'm saying is that we have to give some serious thought to the idea of what really takes precedence in our worldview and our foundation. And I think that really made me think when Michael Knowles brought that up, is I'm like, okay, are we really living by Christian convictions, or are we letting some of these these convictions of the world kind of like pollute some of our beliefs? Like I know for a fact in the Bible, we're not like not only are we not to celebrate other gods or other deities or other celebration, whatever, but we definitely should not be okay with them proliferating it everywhere. I think that we've lost that sometimes, and I think like that's worth thinking about.
Well, like I certainly think it should be worth thinking about. I'm just saying that, like, should they have forcibly torn down this?
No, I think it's a public representative has the right to say, no, this is wrong. We're not going to allow it in our in our state in our state, because it does not promote the values, and this is wrong. And we're not going to play the game of like hyper tolerance of like everything goes, and freedom is the ultimate virtue.
Okay, like, no, so what happens when it goes to the courts and the courts inevitably say that it's okay?
Right, and that's fine. I'm not saying that it's going to be successful. I'm saying that too often Christians are willing to kind of like avoid fights because they're too difficult, rather than actually fight fights that are worth fighting. In this case, I think the government of Iowa should be promoting proper values and standing up for people who, like, everyone, like I can guarantee you the majority of people know this is wrong, and it shouldn't be allowed. But nobody's willing to do anything about it because they're all too afraid of like the modern social convention is that judgment is bad. Oh, you can't judge people. You can't say anything is bad.
That's not what they're doing here.
No. But they're basically falling into the idea that we can't say it's wrong because it's all about freedom or free speech or something like that. Whereas I'm like, no, I think you can actually make a stand and be like, this is wrong. And I'm going to do everything I can to basically try to to try to stop this from going forward. Like, sure, are they going to lose in the courts? Maybe they'll. I would rather
absolutely, 100%.
Sure. I would rather see them lose, like, in the courts than just like not even bother to fight it at all. That's the problem. They're not even making an attempt to fight it. They're just like, nope, rolling over. Here we go. You can go anywhere you want. It's fine. That's the problem. They should at least make an effort to say, no, this is wrong, and we're going to oppose it.
Yeah.
Because for a fact that the way that the left operates, they take over a space and they just kind of throw their weight around and they never get opposed, which is why they always get away with everything.
And I think that they should be, like, the rules should not be applied unequally.
No, exactly. But I think the problem
the rules
is that
have been applied unequally until now, for sure.
Sure, and I think that the problem is that too many Christians are doormats.
Oh yeah, they are.
And I think in this case,
I would not argue against that in any way. They're doormats, and they've allowed things to happen.
Exactly, and I think in this case, in Iowa, the people, the government representatives who claim to be Christian, who are not standing up for Christian values, are doormats.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so from the Daily Mail, Megyn Kelly slams Taylor Swift for attending Rami Youssef comedy night, where proceeds were donated to Gaza's charity described as highly political. She owes Israelis and Jewish Americans an apology, and I hope they boycott her event. She had attended a Rami Youssef comedy show where all proceeds went to a charity working in Gaza. Megyn Kelly condemned Swift for attending the show, saying she should do some research on women in the LGBTQ community in Gaza, or, the Jews?
She's trying to say that she's trying to hold her, or what do you call it? She's trying to play the guilt game by saying
of like appealing to leftist virtue.
Right. So like, Taylor Swift, you're so pro women and pro LGBT, and yet the people that you're supporting are very mean and harsh to those people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what she's doing.
So, yep. So Kelly said Swift needed to educate herself. You clearly know nothing. You know what they do to the community in Gaza, Taylor? That you now want to support? You know what Hamas likes to do to women? You think we have equal rights over there, Taylor?
Off the rooftops.
And I don't think, of course, there was any blowback from Taylor Swift. But, yep, Megyn Kelly's right here.
She was chosen as or Taylor Swift was chosen at the
Time Person of the Year. Yep, she was.
That's right. Most influential, did everything right, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. There was a whole crazy, weird thing on Twitter about that. About her and Soros, and it was a weird whole debacle.
Well, wasn't it like the Soros basically like bought the rights to her music?
Yeah, Soros bought the rights to her music, and then Taylor like accused them of stealing the rights to her music. Mm-hmm. And then that essentially went away. And then when she became Time Person of the Year, then I think it was like Sobiek and Laura Loomer.
Mm-hmm.
They were essentially saying like, oh, Taylor Swift, like that was a psyop. She isn't actually going over Soros. Taylor Swift is an activist of the enemy. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, that's weird. She hasn't posted about that in like 5 years. It's kind of weird to bring that up.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some people are actually suggesting that there are people in the PR community, like people with like a lot of influence and power, that they're trying to set up Taylor Swift as a way of like getting a lot of like supporters to try to turn the Taylor Swift supporters into a voting bloc, is what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I could see that. I could see like them basically weaponizing, like, because she has a lot of influence.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
a ton of like suburban women, Swifties, like all kind of thing, and to turn that into a voting bloc would be a smart strategy.
It would be. So it was very strange to see them just like go outright and attack her. And try and attack Swifties, but
they had like Swift, Gomez, and Anya Taylor, Joy, the girl from the Queen's Gambit.
Oh, okay.
a lot of like very famous actresses there. So
yep.
I think the problem here is again, equating like support for Gaza is not support. That the problem is anybody who knows that any like.
Well, I think that was why she was specifically targeting against women and the LGBTQ and not against the Jews, because Palestinian civilians in Gaza are not directly equatable with Hamas, but the actions against the LGBTQ and women are directly equatable to what happens in Gaza. So I think that was why she was making that argument.
Yeah. By the way, have you gotten those ads on either Facebook or other places where it's like some kind of charity for like people in Gaza, like
yes,
and it's like usually some woman or some child, but like, oh, we're suffering, please send money, and I'm like, immediately, I'm like, no, because just a quick story, and we'll move on to the next story. My mom, after the Mexican earthquake, there was an earthquake in Mexico City a few years back. And there was like a massive humanitarian crisis there. And what happened, my mom told me that her and a whole bunch of the people here in Canada, the Mexican, tried to send money and supplies to people there who were affected. And what they found out is that the Mexican government, either the government or cartels or somebody, was intercepting all the money and supplies, and they were just like taking it for themselves. And so my mom had to come up with a very creative solution to basically send money to individuals in the area who would then go and buy the supplies themselves and take it to those people in a more kind of subtle way, because otherwise the support doesn't get to them. The problem with Gaza is that anything you send to Gaza, even if you mean well, it's going directly to Hamas. They're basically intercepting everything that goes in, and you're basically like funding terrorists without intentionally trying to fund terrorists. So, yeah. Speaking
Just
of intercepting terrorists, let's talk about this crazy video that came out of the war.
Yes, so we are going to talk about the video.
You're not showing it?
Twitch will ban us.
Really? Oh, it's a good video.
Twitch is so sensitive about violence.
Can you play it in the background without any sound?
No, because they will use their algorithm to analyze the video.
Oh, really?
They care. Like, we could play the audio, but we can't play the video.
Maybe play the audio. I can describe what's happening.
Okay, so let's just describe it. So, terrifying body cam footage shows an Israeli special ops soldier coming face to face with two Hamas terrorists in a Gaza building, and eventually taking them both out, even after being wounded by grenades tossed at him. Israel said Tuesday. The encounter was filmed by the helmet camera of the member of the elite Yahalom unit in the IDF, and he comes across a pair of Hamas operatives in an apartment in Gaza City's Shajaya neighborhood.
Yeah, so this is like right from the front line. By the way, so Steven's going to play the sound. We're going to describe it, but I posted the article on the Discord chat, so feel free to go check it out yourself. But like, when I saw this,
there's stuff that we have to do to avoid censorship. And this is just one of those things.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. YouTube will definitely, YouTube would take us down within and they would give us a strike for that.
Yeah. So like I find it amazing that the video game that we showed earlier, that would not be bannable, but this would be.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, because that's cartoon violence and you can stream a shooter game.
Yeah, but a lot of so New York Post does a good job. They actually blur the faces and the images. So
they blur the images.
Yeah,
if they blur the images, then it's probably okay.
Yeah, you can stop it if you want. But I remember
I'll watch it, and then if it does get, so we'll see what happens.
Like it is violent, but they don't actually show
what's
happening. They blur the actual because this. So this is like this is urban warfare.
Yep.
Firefight. He's hiding behind the thing. The big thing that happened, I won't spoil it, but obviously they're firing. It's all blurred, kind of thing. You can't really see. Right. So this is an IDF soldier fighting here. Here's the thing that really goes.
Dang.
Right here.
Grenade.
Yeah. I don't know if I think it was a smoke grenade.
Well,
I could be wrong.
Smoke grenades are usually. They don't have the actual explosion.
Okay.
So it might have been a small grenade, like a homemade grenade.
they said he was injured because of this this blast and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the reason why I thought this was like, is because this is urban warfare.
Yep.
Urban warfare is brutal.
Yep.
Yeah, so they blurred out. Yeah.
Okay. So crazy.
So this is what. Yeah, this is why I was saying. So like the reason why I wanted to show this is because people said like, you know, oh, why does Israel have to like bomb and do all these crazy things? You know, like in the Gaza war, and I was like, it's because by necessity they're going to fight urban war, and in order to make urban warfare less of a quagmire, you have to soften the targets. That is absolutely for an invading army, because like I followed the World War II when they fought in Iwo Jima, when they fought like the Pacific War, the advantage of urban warfare and like, you know, civil warfare is insane. Like a people invading a well fortified, like, you know, enemy is always going to, like, you know, lose major amounts. So this is why I support the idea that Israel had to soften target. They had to like take all sorts of measures to try to make this a much more a much less deadly endeavor for their own soldiers, which is why I'm like, yeah, this is fine. This is why, like, in World War II, they softened before the D-Day invasion, they bombed the crap out of all the fortifications and everything else, because they needed to soften the targets so that when they send their soldiers into the beaches, then they're able to basically to maximize their ability to actually go there without losing massive amounts of other soldiers. That's why I support Israel in what they're doing, in because I knew that they were going to have to do urban warfare. That's always brutal.
In response to Conquer Worm, we haven't done a lot of I think we did a 1 or 2 sections briefly talking about the conflict between the Azerbaijanis and the Armenians, or the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. We haven't done a ton of I think we briefly mentioned it, but we haven't. So I can sort of give a brief coverage.
Yeah, give me because I don't know a lot about, like, I know about the Armenian genocide in 1915.
Oh yeah,
but I don't know the current.
So this is from the BBC. So this is an article from September. So it's older.
Put it on the screen. There you go.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
I apologize. Oh no, I did. I had it on the screen.
Yeah. I mean, when I looked at it, was
like I had it. Don't blame me for something I didn't do.
Okay, go.
Tens of thousands of ethnic Armenians have fled in the Nagorno-Karabakh since the territory surrendered to Azerbaijan on the 20th of September. So that was within 7 days of that. So this area is over here. So it's Turkey, Iran, Russia, and of course Azerbaijan is much, much bigger than Armenia. And then it's this tiny little region next in between them both. So fears of fresh violence rose when Azerbaijan mounts an effective blockade of a vital route into the enclave on December 2022. And so that was last year. Why are people fleeing? Azerbaijan ethnic Armenians in the Nagorno-Karabakh declared a ceasefire mediated by Russia on the 20th of September, which brought 24 hours of fighting to an end. The agreement said local Armenian forces would be completely disarmed and disbanded. Azerbaijan and the Karabakh authorities have since started talks about the integration of the enclave into Azerbaijan. Territory separatist leaders Samvel Shahramanyan. I probably butchered that. Also signed an order dissolving all state institutions from next year. Said the decision to dissolve the state was based on the priority of ensuring the physical security and the vital interests of the people, referencing Azerbaijan's agreement that free, voluntary, and unhindered travel is ensured to residents.
Yeah, that's horrible.
So there haven't been, there has, at least from what I can see, like there's not a ton of like recent news on this conflict.
Well, here's what I will say. Like, so Conquer Worm Raz, like, you know, no one's talking about it. I think Tim Pool also mentioned this. People always
mentioned it, yeah, but
he's mentioned like not just this one, but there's
a bunch of conflicts going on around the world.
There's the one in Yemen. There's one in around the Bangladesh kind of area, and Southeast Asia and all that. Okay, it's a very simple answer. Why is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict the one that's getting all the news coverage? It's because it's the one that has the most strategic and political
advantages.
Interest for Western media.
Yep.
That's why they're covering it. And the Armenian issue that really has no political impact whatsoever on the West, which is why they don't get it involved. There's no media coverage. The one in Yemen, same thing.
Yeah.
The one in there's no political advantage. That's why they're not covering it.
Well,
it's
yeah,
not because
like people will, like that'll be these conflicts will be like when people talk about this era or like these few years, the Armenian conflict, the Yemenis conflict, that will be a side note. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, that'll be kind of a primary note from 2022 onwards. That war, I believe we're going to be speaking about this in a little bit. Yeah. About like that war is not going well for Ukraine. So, which I heard reports when we cover that story. I heard a report today and I was like, what? So, but
yeah, it's getting bad.
Yeah, like
anything
really involving like a global superpower or a Western ally will receive much more media coverage from Western sources.
It also shows you why. Okay, like the hierarchy of political experience or interest is like they immediately abandoned Ukraine the second the Israeli-Palestinian conflict erupted. Like the media is now focused entirely on it in Israel, and for good reason, because there's more political gain to be gained in Israel conflict than there is in Ukraine.
Yeah. Like the Canadian government still wants to focus on Ukraine.
They do. But
the Biden government, well, we'll talk about that in a later article. But we do need to move on a little bit just because
gotta move it.
We've already been going for 2 hours.
All right, buddy, let's go.
Let's keep going. All right, so this is a video from Libs of TikTok. Queers for Palestine. No.
You're all the same.
And? Now let's switch.
Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
That's a large march.
That's a very large march. You know what that reminds me of, Stephen? You know, like of just like mindless chanting, you know, trying to get people on board with mindless chanting. What does it remind you of, Stephen?
Oh, I know what you're going to say it reminds you of. Reminds me of something that I am not familiar with.
Oh, it's a Simpsons episode. It was one of my favorites.
Let's watch.
Attention, everyone. Let's all give thanks to the leader for this glorious day. The leader is good. The leader is great. We surrender our will as of the state.
The leader is good. The leader is great. We surrender our will as of the state.
It's no use.
It's no use.
Oh, they actually show like, you know, how they get him later. I think it's like, at the where is it? Oh, go to the.
I'll keep watching. Okay, it's only another 30 seconds.
Yeah, keep watching.
He's obviously the most powerful mind we've ever dealt with.
Oh no.
Or na leader. Na leader. Na leader. Na leader. Na leader. Leader.
Batman.
Leader.
Oh my gosh.
I love the leader.
Batman. Oh wait, no.
By the way, I've always accused, like, you know, like the left of like being a cult, which they are. But like this is basically like, you know, this is what they do. It's indoctrination by chanting the same thing. It's like they're not actually making an argument. They're like just repeat the same thing over and over and over, and people are like, yes, we must free Palestine, river to sea. You know, like they repeat chants. This is classic cult indoctrination. They basically get you to like to follow the chant, follow the messaging. Don't ever question it. Just gotta believe, man. Gotta believe. That's what they're doing in New York,
Just
Stephen.
have to believe.
gotta believe in the leader.
Well, something we definitely cannot believe in is Harvard President Claudine Gay. Because she's a plagiarist.
Oh,
Harvard launched inquiry into claims President Claudine Gay plagiarized 3 articles in October. It was just a few months ago. Found no violation, but is proactively requesting 4 corrections to insert citations and quote marks. It's like, so she did, but we're just going to correct it to make it look like she didn't.
Whoopsie. We didn't cover that up properly.
And it's like, well, why are we not going to make any punishments? Because she's gay and black. Because she's a wonderful scholar.
The leader is good. The leader is great.
Yep.
Stephen.
Intersectionalism is great. Intersectionality is good.
By the way, the lady from UPenn, University of Penn.
Oh, she did resign. Yes,
she resigned, but she didn't she's not gone.
Yeah, she's still she still has a tenured position.
Yes, but here's the thing: the fact that the board and the people at UPenn decided you need to go, and she kind of resigned to save face, shows that they're actually at least willing to acknowledge you screwed up, you need to go. But Harvard has not. So if there's somebody who's really screwed up, it's Harvard, because they're like, she did this, and they're like, yeah, we agree, we're totally behind her, yeah, we're all anti-Semites, we love anti-Semitism, over here. That's pretty much what happens. So it's just it's pretty bad.
Yeah. So just to kind of address that, I will check that out. That the article you just posted. Not going to have time to read it on the show, but I will check that out. It is an interesting concept of having a canal that goes through, instead of having the Suez Canal that goes to the Gulf of Suez, to have a new canal that goes to the Gulf of Aqaba.
I'm not sure what that is.
Aqaba. So it's like the Red Sea, it has a V. So the left side is the Gulf of Suez, and then the right side is the Gulf of Aqaba. So this Ben Gurion Canal, it would be a new canal for shipping, and it would go to the Red Sea. So
essentially, there's two. The way that the Sinai Peninsula splits, it's like this V, and the Suez Canal goes on the left side of the V. But if they're trying to go on the right side of the thing, if they're making a new canal, normally what happens is the Dead Sea is the Jordan River empties into Aqaba, and so that's interesting. I'm not sure if that's actually, again, interesting thesis that if that's the cause of the thing, but we'll see. All right, let's shift over to Ukraine.
So Ukraine, top German newspaper asks, has Kiev already lost? Yes. Chief correspondent in a major German newspaper said a bleak tone, well, just accepting reality tone. Reaction to the war in Ukraine, asking, has Kiev already lost? The article was written by Sasha Lenartz and published by Germany's Die Welt newspaper, the most popular publication in the country. Winter is just around the corner. The counteroffensive seems to have failed. The Allies are wary, and since the beginning of November, the latest Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has a new opponent who is not necessarily to be expected. His new commander-in-chief, Valery Zaluzny, states the piece. Lenart notes that there is a virtual stalemate at the front, a reference to Ukraine's top general, Valery Zaluzny, asserting that it would take a miracle. It would take miracle weapons to defeat the Russians. Ugh. I don't like the assertion of that one.
Yeah, essentially what they're saying is that it would take a miracle at this point for them to be able to win.
Well,
maybe, but
that's kind of what there's. Well, because the specific assertion of miracle weapons would be like, it would take miracle weapons we don't have, like nukes.
Well, the other possibility is that I remember hearing a report saying that the UK, France, Germany, and Canada, the United States, and a lot of places, a lot of countries have really exhausted their reserves in terms of military equipment. So the UK is running out of basically has almost run out of tanks, bombardment, what do you call it, artillery, all sorts of things. They're pretty much exhausted most of the reserves, and so there's only so much they can do, and so Ukraine is basically like now asking for continued support, but they've kind of like run out of like things to send. So it's kind of getting a little bleak right now. You and I have talked about this, the idea that like, like we're being told that, like the Ukraine has like all the advantages. It's like, no, Russia's pretty much achieved most of their objectives, and they're just kind of holding strong, and the Ukrainian army doesn't have the capacity to be able to like, take down the Russian military. They're not going anywhere.
Yep.
And
well, I was also reading an article today that Ukraine has passed a regulation regarding conscription, and they've now stopped the regulation from conscription from excluding those above the age of 40.
Of course they have.
And so now any fighting age man, I believe from 18 until dead, is now being conscripted by the Ukrainians. And it's like, just stop.
Which is funny because that's what happened in in the World War I. They basically, by the end of the war, they all they had fighting were like old men and like underage children, or like like young teenage boys.
Well, it was like for those of us who have watched The Two Towers,
Lord of the Rings. You were going to go
old men and children, anybody who can lift a sword.
That's right. Which does not bode well for your army. If
no, it does not. No, it does not.
So we've known this for a long time. The Ukrainians are basically living on borrowed time. Yeah.
And even pointing that out will get you like accosted by the left. Oh my gosh. I said that, I was like, okay, no, like Ukraine needs to make concessions, and they're like, you're pro-Russia, and I'm like, I just want the war to end, guys. Come on. Ukraine's not gonna win.
Killing to stop, Stevens. Killing to stop.
Killing to stop.
In the words of Trump.
Well,
I just quoted Trump. I made you quote Trump.
I didn't quote him.
Like, I said, like, I want the killing to stop. And you said, yes, the killing to stop. I'm like, you quoted Trump. Nice. You just didn't know about it. Anyways, go on to Zelensky.
Yes. From post it. This is. I actually find. Yeah, that guy is. Ugh.
I don't know who he is. I just saw it.
He's a registered sex offender.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yep. I never look into the people who post. I'm
never look.
No, like, I mean, like the clip is what I'm looking for.
Oh yeah, the clip. I'm just like, this is not the best person to post from.
I don't know who that is, so I'm like, okay, well.
Okay, all right. Well, just putting it up there.
What do you say to critics who are saying that?
I say, such person from government or mayors think about the war, think about how to defend our people. Don't travel through the world each day. Travel to the front line. Ask people, ask soldiers what they need. Do this. Not build roads for today. Don't do it. Spend all your money to the weapon, to the drones, to the society, to the pensions, and etc. And don't cry. Because you are leaders. And that's it. That's why we are, and that's why we stay, because mostly people are not crying. People stay and fight against Putin. And we don't have any enemies in our country. We can't have time for this. And we don't have it. We have only one enemy. This is Putin. And that's it.
But you'll stand from democracy going forward.
Yes, of course. And of course. Because we are really defending democracy and we are really defending freedom.
Mr. President, we appreciate your time and we'll continue.
Yep, that's
that was good.
Nope.
That was so brutal coming from his lips. It's like that's like hearing Trudeau say, like, I am totally for protest and for freedom and for democracy. I'm like, you
also a good way to stop an election. Yeah, no kidding.
Like, I'm shocked that like a lightning bolt didn't come from like having struck like, spot.
I'm if I was Brett Baer, I'd be like, what? It's like you just said, like just a few weeks ago, I think it was about a month ago, said nope, we're going to cancel the next election, and you have charged your political opponent and have threatened them with jail. For simply for being your opponents.
Don't worry, Steven. We just need to do the right thing, and we need to stop building roads.
Yeah.
We need to stop taking care of our own people. It's our job to pay for the people of Ukraine indefinitely until the end of time.
Well,
That's our job. Also, we can be good people.
Well,
stop
or
feeding
the end of time, or until we get miracle weapons.
That's right.
We need to launch. We need to. I think what was the exact quote from Zelensky? We need to launch unprovoked attacks so that Moscow knows what happens to them. And it's like, no, we are not going to nuke them. Like this, anybody who listens to this guy, even at the start, it was like, okay, this guy is, I'm not a huge fan. And as as this conflict has gone on, every single thing he says is just, you are a warmongering lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your people are suffering to the nth degree, and you were like, nope, I'd rather see every single one of my civilians, every single one of my citizens dead than surrender even the slightest territory and make concessions to Russia.
Yeah. I mean, it's like...
this is a point of hubris at this point.
Oh, yeah. The funny thing is, people always try to claim oh, we can't have Trump having the nuclear button. He'd press it every day. It's like, no, if you actually gave this lunatic the nuclear buttons, you better believe that he would press them.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind. This is the bad guy. Just in case anybody wonders, that's the bad guy.
Yes.
I'm not saying
we're not saying Putin's a good guy.
Good. No, Putin's bad.
They're both bad.
Both bad. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, this is the one conflict where it's just both sides saying it is actually okay.
Yeah, they're both equally.
At the beginning, we were like, okay, this is an invasion. We're clearly on Ukraine's side at the beginning because this was an unprovoked attack. As the war has gone on, it's like, okay, Ukraine, you're not a NATO member. You have to realize you're outgunned. You're just putting your people in danger, and your leader is a warmonger. It's time to make concessions. It's time to just say, this is the line in the sand. We're going to make agreements here, and we're going to make appeasements. We're going to say, it's like, all right, well, we're going to try and ask NATO to support us to enforce this new line, but we can't say, oh yeah, we're going to win and we're going to force Russia back and we're going to take Russian territory. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think the way that Ukraine has just consistently gone off the deep end over the course of this conflict has made me just made me really at this point it's the old trope of they're Ukraine good, Russia bad. Yeah, that's it. That's all you need to know. It's no.
Yeah. Sorry, in terms of Conquer Worm, we're going to do a 2024 prediction episode. I believe the 2024 prediction episode, because you leave next Thursday.
Yes.
So next Tuesday will be the final episode of the year, 2024 wrap up episode. Just because Danny's leaving to Kelowna, and it's just a hassle to try and do the show while he's. At least I'm assuming you're in Kelowna.
I'll be in Kelowna. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just a big hassle. I don't want to take him away from his family while he's there. So we'll do an open mic night. It'll be the final episode of the year, and then Danny will be. And then at the end of the episode, we'll talk about what happens while Danny's in Mexico. So
yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll address that later. But let's keep moving on to the few stories that are left.
Quicker because we gotta get.
Rumble fights off unprecedented cyber attack, likely an attempt to censor creator. CEO said attack took place just after Rumble became home to January 6 CCTV units. The CEO notes. The video.
I feel I'm listening to this 2.5 speed.
Yeah, well, I could. Let's go faster. The video hosting platform.
Thanks, Steven.
It becomes illegible.
Basically, Rumble basically got a DDoS attack. Most likely because they were sharing videos from the January 6 tapes.
Yeah.
And this was an unprecedented one. It lasted days. So yeah, you can read the quote from Chris Pablusky.
So Chris Pablusky confirmed this attack has been unprecedented, has been attacking since the weekend. I also suspect it is political, coming from activists and organizations who want to censor creators and related to J6 videos being posted on Rumble.
Yeah, so it's Rumble's been getting like absolutely,
but it's been restored since Monday.
Yeah, because DDoS attacks can't be indefinite. They're a way to stop them. So yeah,
okay.
So it's Rumble's under attack.
Rumble's under attack. Something that should be under attack is Doctor Who.
This was crazy.
Doctor Who race swaps toy maker character to white man so they can make him racist. Where case notes where race swap actually lands a white actor role. Doctor Who changed the ethnicity of the toy maker character from Asian to white German man, so they didn't make him racist, according to the show's head writer. The third and final episode of the 60th anniversary Doctor Who specials was broadcast last night on BBC One. The toy maker character was originally East Asian Chinese in his original incarnation, was turned into a white German. This was done so the character could act racist, according to head writer Russell T Davies. So Russell T Davies canonizes the racism of the original toy maker serial. Today, we live in a diverse society where cultural appropriation is not acceptable, so the 2023 toy maker is a white character portrayed by a white actor. Oh, so it's okay just to make him racist. Oh my gosh.
It is. That's the joke. And of course, Neil Patrick Harris was fully okay with being part of that, debacle.
He used to be so decent.
Oh, he used to be a funny, you know, it's like Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey used to be like fun.
Oh, and then he became psychotic.
Then he became a whack job. Which is sad and all that. But this is why this story is crazy. Because they're like race swapping is only for white people. It's only good if you want to make them racist. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. By the way, if you haven't had a chance, go look up Nerdrotic. They covered the wokeification and death of Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, because isn't the Doctor now, like the primary series Doctor, I believe, is now trans?
They tried to bring back some of the big popular characters, and it blew up in their faces because the wokeness kind of absolutely blew up everything. So Doctor Who a lot of people were hoping that they were.
Oh no, it was a special.
Yeah. They were hoping they could revive it, but it's the BBC is hopelessly infected and captured by DEI lunatics, and so of course they were never going to make it work, and so of course people have just rejected it outright, and it's dead. Just like Star Wars, that franchise is officially dead.
Yeah, Star Wars.
Moving on.
I love how there's so many people who are like, the sequels will be accepted, and we're like, no, they won't.
Never.
No.
But speaking of someone who's gone to the dark side.
Oh, yes. Massively to the dark side. Disney can now be sued by 9,000 female employees alleging gender-based pay disparity. Nearly 9,000 women will now be able to sue the Walt Disney Company, alleging they were paid less than their male counterparts. A LA judge on December 8th certified the lawsuit filed under California's Equal Pay Act, which prohibits employers from paying less than someone of the opposite sex or race. The class action lawsuit is the largest lawsuit ever certified under the Act. So this all just to say, essentially they're complaining that men are being paid more, even if the men are more talented actors or more talented in whatever job they're doing. But as long as the women get paid less for having the same title, then that's considered discrimination. So Tim Pool actually did describe this fairly well. Robert Downey Jr. is paid more for his movies his kind of acting in the Avengers than Scarlett Johansson, because he's more of a draw to the series. Black Widow, Iron Man is way more important than Black Widow. But according to this,
and the actor.
Of course, long running effects of what happens to the MCU, all of that, the MCU has definitely gone downhill. But certain actors are going to be more relevant, and certain characters are going to be more relevant, and thus their actors are paid more for those roles because they're more of a drawing factor to those movies. And under this legislation, they would all have to be paid the same.
I'm going to go on a limb and assume that Robert Downey Jr. got paid more than the actor who played Loki.
Yes,
I'm going to guess. Oh, funny how that works.
But the men so men do not see that as pay discrimination. This is the whole gender pay gap stupidity all over again. Where it was this whole notion that women make 77 cents on the dollar for every dollar a man makes. But the problem is that they don't take into effect experience. They don't take into effect the amount of hours worked. They don't take into effect the professions that they're in. They just say broad across the board, this is the way it is, and therefore it is unequal. It's like, well, no, you need to analyze this. And if you actually break it down by career, women are advanced faster in their careers and they're paid more.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can have an easier time going to HR and making complaints, and companies are afraid of that. I've witnessed that personally working for the university. The university is terrified of defying anybody's complaints. And like, I'm going to be like, I might have a decades of a time bringing complaints because I've had a terrible time trying to get benefits. And they're like, oh, like, we'll think about it. Oh, we'll think about it. And I'm like, okay, like, if this doesn't happen by Christmas, then I'm going to go to management. Because I've had enough of this. Like, you guys have like kind of walked around and you guys have not addressed this. And they're like, oh, like, well, we can just ignore this problem. Like, I applied for, because there's a separate position with benefits. I applied for this position back in early November. And I'm like, okay, is there anybody else that's up for this job? And they're like, oh, I don't even know. I haven't even opened the email yet. And I'm like, it's been a month and you haven't even opened the email? I'm like, this is just a crazy amount of disrespect.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know for a fact that there's no other internal hires that are ready for this position. But you guys are just like, oh, well, you know, like, we'll just kind of putz around and do nothing. And I'm like, have some, like, there's a reason that you guys are disliked by your employees. That's because you just disrespect us and don't listen to our complaints. And then the only time you ever listen to our complaints is when we go above your head, and then you get mad at us for going above your head.
That's the problem. Is that places like universities, they're not filled with people who are high integrity or courageous. They're full of cowards and lazy people. They reward all the wrong things.
Yep,
this is why you become like this.
Yep.
But let's talk about Canada and like the
let's finish up with Canada. So Joe Rogan. Yes,
this happened on
a crap hole country. Yes, this is from December the 9th.
Fucking frozen.
NSFW, just a brief warning to that.
Communist shithole of Canada. Yeah. It's cold. You get real cold water.
When's the last time you've been up there?
I don't go up there anymore.
You refuse, right?
Yeah, I just fucking... What they've done up there, what they did with the trucker rally, and what Trudeau's doing with guns, and what they're trying to clamp down on censorship on the internet, that guy can eat shit. Like, that place needs 100% an overhaul of government. Like, they're sliding down that dangerous road of communism that scares the shit out of me.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, he's not wrong.
You know, the funny thing is, I often listen to several YouTube channels like Mr. Sunshine Baby, The Pleb, and a couple other channels that talk about Canadian politics. And it's like, if you listen to the Canadian media and you listen to anybody in the liberal like bench or any of the Liberal Party, they basically like act like Canada is the utopia of the
my
the
gosh,
West.
yeah.
Everything is honky dory. It's amazing.
Like, even like, so there was the liberal media, they were all using this one thing. So like on Twitter, they were all responding to Joe Rogan, and they're like, how dare Joe Rogan say these things? Look at this report. And it was saying that Canada was like the second most free country in the world. And I'm like, yeah, we know that's bogus.
Confirmation bias was like, it has to be true because we want it to be true.
I remember there was one person be like, Joe Rogan said that we don't have free speech. Of course we have free speech. I'm like, no, we have freedom of expression. It's not the same thing. And they're it's the same. I'm like, no, because we have hate speech laws. And they're like, well, you just want hate speech. And I'm like, well, no, who decides what hate speech is?
Hate speech is basically like, you know, the giving the government the power to censor anybody it doesn't like. The way to test if your country has free speech is find out if there's anybody in the society that has been censored.
Yep.
If anybody in society has been censored for what they said, then we don't have free speech. And people always think, oh, there's no free speech because I've never experienced it. I'm like, well, because you're not saying anything that the system doesn't like. That's not a test.
The system is okay with what you have to say.
Well, it's kind of like you and I. We went through this during COVID. They're like, you know, all these Christians, like so-called professing Christians, they're like, there's no persecution. I'm like, of course you wouldn't think so, because you're not
doing anything that merits persecution.
Exactly.
Which means you need to reevaluate your actions, because you should be.
Oh my gosh.
Like the fact that our government passed a law that said that you cannot even speak to someone or say, like, giving a speech saying that you don't have to, like, if you have convinced yourself that you were born gay or born trans or whatever, that you don't have to stay that way, that it is something you can escape by the power of God, that is an illegal speech in Canada, and Christians have basically stayed silent on that, and many churches said nothing when that bill was passed.
The legislation called Christianity a myth.
Yes.
It did. Called it a myth. I remember that. But let's go through some examples current examples.
Yeah, current examples of terrible communism in Canada.
Of what Joe Rogan was talking about. So this is the first one from somebody on Twitter.
Son of a bitch. Canada introduced a new Racism and Gender Discrimination Employment Act. This does not cover anyone who is white and Caucasian. It's being brought under the guise of racial equality and gender inclusion. That means that companies will have to hire you if you are LGBTQ+, or of a skin color, not white, in order to meet certain equity standards. Employment Equity Act. And Canada's new Employment Equity Act is without a doubt straight up racism.
This is basically, enforce DEI.
So let's just watch.
Yeah, and but the
Act Review Task Force. It is a sizable tome in its defense in both languages. It is entitled A Transformative Framework to Achieve and Sustain Employment Equity. This is a sizable.
Is this guy like making like a hostage video and he's like, please let me keep my job? I'm surrounded by brown people, please let me keep my job because I'm a white man.
No, this guy's an absolute turd.
Black people.
Like seriously, he's horrible.
And LGBTQI plus individuals as designated groups.
Maybe not full screen, Steven, so people can see the subtitles.
Okay, hang on.
Which is, diversity is a fact, inclusion is a choice, equity is the law.
Equity is the law.
Tremendous commitment. We've heard this over and over from a range of constituencies across.
She means legal firms, not a racist who support discrimination.
Achieving and then sustaining employment equity in Canadian.
Professor sure loves the racist term employment equity.
We've offered a framework that is designed to transform employment equity. One that helps workplaces to identify.
Pressure workplaces to hire people that are less qualified, but the right color.
One that
or sexual orientation.
Meaningful participation in employment equity. And one that allows regulatory support in the form of an employment equity commission to ensure that we achieve and sustain substantive equality.
But we have, in total, 187 recommendations here, so we're going to take some time to go through it.
All of the recommendations first to determine what you accept, and then you're going to move forward with legislation? What's the process?
Well,
here?
no, I mean, what we decided on, as I said, we wanted to take action on two things. The two new designated groups, which we thought we didn't need to waste any time to announce our full intention to do that.
Coming up with this new system, obviously it's to fix the old one. Does that mean that you'll be looking at settling disputes with some of your public servants, your Indigenous and Black public servants, their lawsuits?
Just want to be clear, you're talking about the Employment Equity Act? Yeah. I think I don't want to prejudice anything other than to say that the recommendations have now come forward. They are extensive. Let's get through them.
So by the way, you pause that.
Yeah, it's just like
change, and I think that will be in a better position.
By the way, so here's in a nutshell what they're basically putting through. They're basically saying we're gonna make it we're gonna force you by threat of legal penalties and all sorts of financial things. We're gonna threaten you that you have to basically do DEI hiring, which means if your company is too white, it has too many white people, we're going to force you by rule of law to hire only Black people, to hire only LGBT people, and to basically force mandatory
white people out.
Yes, essentially, this is like racial discrimination on fire. And the one thing that I find amazing, this is what I find amazing, is that we always thought that like if you think of like 1984, that like the tyrants, the totalitarians, the villains would be like, like they come out in their like evil coats and like laugh maniacally and and yell at all the people.
Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom.
Exactly. But what's happening in Canada is that we have like little tyrants dressed in like nice little suits and talking in nice soft tones and all that. But what they're actually doing is pure evil. That's why people are falling for it in Canada. We have the nice looking, wolves in sheep's clothing. They seem like nice people. That guy and that lady in that speech, they seem like nice people. But what they're actually proposing is pure evil, and they're like doing it with a smile. It's what I call evil with a smile.
It's like offering somebody a poisoned apple. It's like, oh look, I'm giving you this tasty, delicious apple, but really it's poison.
That's a great example. Yeah. That's a great example
because what they're giving to you, like by a decent analysis, like if somebody offers you an apple, you're like, hey, thanks. Like this is something which is tasty and it's good for me. But if it's poisoned, then they're merely making it look nice.
Yeah, and everything that they've done so far in this like horrible like tenure that they've had, they passed gun legislation under the guise of like, oh, it's all about like protecting the public from gun violence. I'm like, you've basically made the public less safe. Like they about the law that bans social media from being able to share like news on social media. It's like, oh, it's about like them paying their fair share. No, it's about you blocking like people from being able to share like news content.
Yeah.
It's like paying, like everything that they've done has always been under the guise of a nice sounding like piece of crap like legislation, but in reality they're basically picking your pocket, shooting you in your back, or poisoning.
Yep. That is this newest thing. So covering from the Zero Hedge is exactly that. Canadian medical schools asked to shift from medical expertise to anti-racism and social justice training. Major controversy brewing in Canada over a proposal by the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons that schools shift from emphasizing medical expertise in favor of teaching anti-racism and social justice values. Organizations of physicians called Do No Harm is opposing the recommendation of the interim report by the college's anti-racism expert working group. The report states that the new emphasis should center around values such as anti-oppression, anti-racism, and social justice rather than medical expertise. By decentering medical expertise, the anti-racism experts suggest courses focusing on anti-racism, anti-oppression, social justice and equity, inclusive compassion, and decolonization. This includes the perils of capitalism and other powers. Oh yeah. Like this is basically just being like, well, we could cure you, but like capitalism and racism is keeping us from. It's like, what? That's not keeping you from doing that. Well, we could offer you MAID. Like that doesn't require any medical expertise. We could just kill you, but like we're not going to focus on training you on how to medically treat things. We're not going to treat like it's all focused on making people. It's feelings over facts. That's all this is. It's totally nonsense.
It's really simple. These people are evil.
Yeah.
They're just freaking evil, and they're like they're the scum of the earth. Like they're causing Canada to commit societal suicide. Everything that wokeness touches, it kills, it destroys, it makes rotten and putrid.
Burns it right to the ground.
The problem is that the Canadian public is just
they're so brainwashed.
They're lulled into this false sense of like everything's fine. They don't realize that they're being slowly ushered into a totalitarian nightmare.
And we've talked about this for ages. The Canadian public still has the impression that the government and the media are out for their best interest. Like we heard it. There was some, I think it was Zaz posted earlier on in the show. Like 9 scariest words. I'm here from the government. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Like that's what people in Canada genuinely believe. That's why when the COVID lockdowns hits, we had such minimal resistance to the COVID lockdowns because they're like, no, that like they're in the right. They're doing it for our best interest. They're here to help us, and you're just in the way. And the reason that they're failing, and the reason that people like that COVID is everywhere, and that people are dying, is because people aren't listening to the governments. And it's like, well, that didn't make a difference. Well, of course it did. You're just full of conspiracies and misinformation. It's like, no, that's not the case at all.
Yeah, it's insane.
It
makes you feel really sad. It makes you feel really sad because you realize, like for example, like I don't want to throw the bus, but on Saturday I had like a lot of people at my house for the board games. But the most interesting one is several people asked me about. They're like, there was a couple, a guy and a girl. I'm not sure if they're dating or if they're just friends or whatever, but they showed up at the house, and I think I shared pictures of it.
Okay.
They showed up at the house, and I don't know if these are Christians or not. I just working group I know about, but they showed up in like N95 masks, like very serious masks. You just go through my pictures, you'll see them. And the whole night, the entire night, they were wearing those masks. And I made a point. I'm like, I'm not going to bring it up unless it comes up or unless they bring it up. I will. Like, they have no idea that I basically have more knowledge on masks than most people. And I know for a fact that they are, whatever reason that they think that mask is protecting them or saving them is complete nonsense. But they have been, for whatever reason, they've been convinced that mask is somehow saving them from some danger out there, and they have full confidence that this thing is helping them when in reality is hurting them. And that's sad. It's really, it actually breaks my heart more than anything else, is that they're convinced that this is like their safety blanket. And there's like a talisman. It's like they believe that if they rub this like lucky rabbit's foot enough, that they'll be protected from all like calamity or whatever. But this is what I feel about the Canadian public.
Yep.
The Canadian public is just
sheep.
Has this. They're sheep. And it's sad. Doesn't make me angry at them. And like I'm like, you guys have no idea.
It's compassion and pity. Like the only time that I get upset with them is when I'm just like, okay, this is what the facts is, this is what the data are. Or like opposite way, this is what the facts are, this is what the data is. And they're like, nope. I'm like, I just showed you it. Like, what is no? There is no. There is, this is what the data is. And they're like, well, I disagree. I'm like, there's not really a point to disagree.
But they because they're, what's it called? They're stuck. There's a word for it. Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, it's cognitive.
They have cognitive dissonance. They can't break out of it. They're stuck. This is why.
It's amazing.
This is why I do have a lot of respect for people like like Jeremy, like like Conquerworm, or like a guy I know who's Reagan, who founded the group Kelowna Freedom Rally. But though both those guys, like, so Jeremy went to the States, Reagan went to Mexico. But they went because they saw the warning signs. They know Canada is heading in a very dangerous direction, and they see the warning signs. And I'm like, I agree with them. And I think at some point, like, I may actually have to, like, make a choice and be like, well, Canada is becoming
it's past the point of no return. Like and I think Danny is with me on this. Alberta being the most conservative place in Canada by far.
And finally having a leader
having a leader that's at least like saying, okay, like Alberta has been resistant to Trudeau for a long time. It's time to stick to our guns. It's time to actually oppose Trudeau. Danielle is far from perfect, but she's by far the best premier in Canada. And she's the only one. And she's the best one we've had for years. And she's the only one that's saying, it's just like, the federal government is trying to do stuff. I tell them, screw you. We're doing it anyway. You say that we have to do this by 2030. I say we're going to take you to court. And I'm like, good. And they're like, oh, she's wasting provincial funds. And I'm like, I don't care.
No, I don't care.
I would rather her fight it and fight the battle and potentially lose in court than
because the consequences
just
of that thing are worse. The consequences of what the Trudeau government is basically like, imagine you're on a ship and you're the people, the crew is consistently trying to burn down the ship. That's basically the Trudeau government.
Yep.
And so, like everything that they do is garbage.
Okay, let's quickly finish off the final two stories. So, from Rebel News, Ottawa to offer carbon credits to farmers and bid to reduce cattle farts, burps, and to earn credits, the feds recommend that farmers adjust their livestock diets. Adding ionophores, yeast, essential oils, or other digestion enhancers to their food would reduce the methane output, claims Environment and Climate Change Canada. This is so stupid.
These people are insanely, like, they're fanatics.
Yeah.
Like, especially this idiot, like Stephen Gilbo.
Like, none of this, and we all know, these things are not going to reduce any of the output by cows. What they really want is to reduce livestock output. They want to kill majority of our livestock. They want to kill the majority of our farming.
Yeah.
And so that we have to reduce our consumption, and that we have to kind of go with the 2030 agenda of eat the bugs, live in the pods, own nothing, and be happy.
Steven, do you remember like the movie The Sixth Sense?
Yes.
With what's his name?
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, thank you. There's a very famous scene in that where like you find out that the little girl that Haley Joel Osment is trying to help, that she was slowly being poisoned by her, what was it, like her mother or like her stepmother or something like that. But like there was somebody was taking care of her, but she was constantly poisoning, adding some kind of like thing to her soup and slowly poisoning her to death. And then she died.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is that the father found out what actually happened and all that kind of. This is what the Trudeau Liberals are doing to Canada and to Canadians. They're basically feeding us poison. They're basically trying to kill like everything. They're trying to kill our freedom. They're trying to make food way too expensive. They're basically doing that. And this is the thing. This is why I find Parliament to be such a it's infuriating. You watch the Liberals answer everything. They never ever take responsibility for a thing ever. They're always blaming someone else or something else, and they're always basically telling Canadians that, oh, you've never had it so good. Canadians should be thanking us for like how much they're suffering. Oh, Canadians are suffering. Well, really, it's because they're stupid. They can't see how much
they can't handle how good it is, and it's like, what?
No. Like these people are pure evil. Like it's not that they're bad politicians. It's not that. They're just wicked people. It's just that simple.
Yeah,
they're evil, and they need to stay. We need to get them out of this country.
All right, and then this is the final story. So, Justin Trudeau's dental plan kicking off for everyone 87 and older. A new Canadian dental care plan will make dental care more affordable and accessible for up to 9 million Canadians who don't have insurance. Applications open later this month, starting with seniors who are 87 and older.
Yeah. Do you know why they're doing this, Stephen?
Do I know whether...
Why are they doing this? No, why are they doing this specific legislation about dental care?
Oh, voter block.
Sorry, what?
Voter block. Guaranteed voter block.
Yes, because so what I found out, the Trudeau Liberals are right now, they have signed a deal to basically ensure that they cannot be forced to do an election until 2025. And part of the deal is that they had to make some kind of healthcare thing before the end of this year.
Yeah.
People thought like they're not going to be able to do it. It's too late, and now we're going to have a spring election. This sounds like them trying to buy themselves more time so that they don't have to face a spring election. Because right now, if they face a spring election, they're done.
Yeah,
and
they are done.
Good chance that the NDP might actually even try to pull it off because the NDP stands to gain some seats while the Liberals are going to go down. They're going to lose a massive trough of seats. So we'll see. We'll see if there's a spring election. A lot of people are predicting it. I'm kind of keeping my eyes open, but I don't know.
The NDP are. I think they want to stay until 2025 just so that they can continue sort of like pushing for these small incremental changes to get the dental plan, to get healthcare and other. And I think that like if they do manage, like if we do get some sort of UBI legislation, then I think if that passes, then they'll immediately call for an election once that passes.
I'm gonna add one thing I want you to keep in mind. And just this is just one thing I'm gonna add. I saw this and I'd never heard of it, but I was like, holy crap. There's something happening in next May, I think it is. It's a redistricting of all sorts of what do they call the sections for elections? The
municipal MDs.
No, the ridings.
Municipal districts.
Okay, the districts. Okay. There's going to be a massive redistricting happening in next year, and probably in the summer, like May. And that redistricting, people have like looked at it and they've noticed that it's going to favor conservatives on a massive scale. Because what they're going to do, they're going to combine urban districts with rural districts in a lot of areas. And so they're looking at, and they're saying, because this is going to so heavily favor the conservatives in the next election, one of the reasons why people are speculating that the NDP might not want to risk taking too long for an election is because if they wait too long, they might lose a lot of seats in that new redistricting. So keep that in mind. I thought that was interesting. Whether or not that leads to an election, I mean, obviously, like speculation, but that was like, that is actually a solid reason to be like, oh dang, we're gonna lose a lot if we don't do this quick.
Well, okay, so, let's finish off the show in memory of Captain Holt. We're gonna do 3 oh dangs.
Oh dang!
Oh dang! Oh
dang! And that is 3 oh dangs.
That's 3 oh dangs.
Like, my favorite thing is at the beginning.
Send off for Andre Braugher.
It's like, bing pot. Bing pot. He's like, he said it.
He said it.
Don't call me wet blanket. My name is Velvet Thunder. Like, okay.
Yep. No, there was some really good lines from Captain Holt.
Yeah, my favorite is when Gina made that like little board. It's like, get some.
I did that to my coworker for a while. Not my coworker, but I did that to one of my clients, and he was working for Goodwill, and I just had like the audio board, and I was like, it was like I didn't do get some. It was like he would come up to me and he'd ask me a question, and it would be like a ridiculous question, and I would just press on the board and be like, clearly the pineapple is the slut, and he's like, what?
That's awesome. Well done.
So yeah. Anyways, that's what we're getting in today's show. It's been a very long show. It's just the way it is sometimes. But if you want to check early. Yes. If you want to check out our other video content, you can check us out on BitChute, YouTube, and Rumble. This episode might not be on BitChute because it's just too darn long. But we will try and make at least 1 or 2 segments of it. If you want to check out our text platforms, you can check us out at theshrewddudes.com or on Twitter, Gitter, and Facebook. That being said, what are you laughing about?
I'm sorry. I just somebody sent me this. It's a video on Instagram, and it's pretty much a bird flying around an elephant, and he literally gets like smoked by the elephant's poop. It literally crushes him. I was like, oh, that's a horrible way to go for the bird. He literally got smushed by like a giant elephant turd.
Oh my gosh. Okay, the Sharon's Danny gets distracted by late at night.
No, it's funny.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. They'll have you send it to me, just not during the show.
No, not during the show.
All right, so we will see you Thursday for our regularly scheduled live stream. We'll try and start between 7:45 and 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Until then, have a great night, everybody. Have a great couple days. And as always, God bless.
Good night, everybody.